Gale slumps awkwardly in his party, looking completely lost and baffled. He opens his mouth to ask something, then bam, he gets cut off mid-question. Cash lunges in close and growls that Gale's fired. Gale swallows every word, and his mind spins in pure shock. He blurts out, "Why, totally stunned by this wild, sudden news." His party member, Melissa, clamps a cruel laugh in her throat. She openly tears into his pitiful, confused face like it's the funniest thing in the world. The whole party swarms him and starts tormenting him for real. Gale stands up and demands, like, "So what's going on here?" Cash stares him down with a frozen, cold look, questioning the whole surprise. He presses Gale like, "So you really have no clue at all why?" Gale takes a breath and looks back on 3 hard years of nonstop dedication. Cash reclines, smirking as he declares him too dull to even understand it. He rips into Gale's Curso Facer class, calling it the absolute worst of the worst. He's flat out saying Gale is good for nothing just to crank out debuff items. Cash points out in plain sight that he's the absolute bottom of the ranks. Gale swears that every item he's gathered is the reason he's been winning. Cash just stares on, looking completely dead inside. Gale scrambles to prove that not every single one of his items is meant to be consumed. He yanks out a grotesque eyeball necklace, and terror hits them like a punch. Cash cuts him off instantly, eyes blazing with a sharp, no-nonsense command. A brand new woman steps in right as the Cash wipes his tools off the table like she just cut the deal. He hypes up their brand new support mage, Mora Glaris. Cash bows. She's built for it. She can juggle both buffs and debuffs like it's nothing. Mora quietly slips a warm greeting to her brand new adventuring party. The second the pretty newcomer steps in, the whole party is instantly hooked. Cash smirks and goes, "So you finally get it, Gale." He lands the final strike and suddenly, they don't need him anymore. Other patrons murmur that this poor guy's class is basically worthless. Gale stammers was hit so hard by the public humiliation that it left her reeling. It's pleading for one last shot, begging them just one more chance. He finally spills the truth he's got brutal power, and he's been unleashing curse tools. Norris, the black mage, meets your gaze with nothing but cold, emotionless silence. Luke the bandit just stares on, completely bored and unmoved. Melissa's face twists into sheer icy contempt. Gale's desperate plea hits the air and nobody even listens. Cash's face is pure ice, like he's shutting the door on everyone without even blinking. He leaned in and asked, "Do you really think Gale thinks we're making a mistake?" A flashback shows Gale always being the one who never stopped backing his team. Gale drops the truth, but he brushes it off like it's none of his problem. Tears of betrayal burn up in Gale's eyes. He still remembers the pure happiness of just being by their side. He once believed they'd stay together for eternity. Cash taunts him, claiming he just opened a cursive tool store. Melissa cackled that his designs would lure in a whole bunch of weirdos. And it was never his promises to boost his catastrophic sense of style. Luke lays a vicious week-long backhanded goodbye. Mora just stares, silent and unmoving, as the cruel exchange unfolds in front of her. Gale finally swallows the truth and admits what's really happening. He walks away with a hollow rush, and it all starts with working with you. Outside, Gale grits his teeth and mutters his fury under his breath. He storms off, rage simmering because his former comrades turned on him. He snaps awake. Wait, they just didn't pay him. Fuming that he'd been forced to work for nothing, he snaps over to check it out. He cranes back toward the end one last time, like he's searching for answers. He spots them laughing like the world can't touch them at all. His face tightens, and a ruthless new resolve locks in like thunder. He decides he has to shut this whole mess down too, right now. He yanks out a special paper talisman like it's about to change everything. He could already feel it if he offered help. They'd slam the door in his face. He secretly enchanted every single piece of their gear quietly, perfectly, and without them realizing it. He slams out the spell, convinced his hard work was nothing but a waste. A massive magical circle erupts above his head, glowing like it's about to rewrite reality. He grunts as a surge of feedback energy rips through his body. He crumples to the ground, hit hard by the backlash. He's wheezing as it clicks in his head. Curses can supercharge your gear. He took their burdens onto his own shoulders, turning that weight into fuel to make them stronger. A surge of power snaps back into him, like the universe just hit him with a reset button. A grin bursts across his face, and suddenly it feels like the weight of the world just vanished. He checks his status, and suddenly he's done caring about them. He digs through the weakness debuff he's been carrying. Boom, his real stats hit the screen. He's level 48. The stern innkeeper towers over the distracted Gale, casting a looming shadow as he turns his attention away. She orders him to get out, and he scrambles away, apologizing through his breath. He bolts out of the Silver Wolf Pavilion in a hurry. In the middle of the city chaos, he stretches wide and feels pure freedom hit like lightning. He whips his head around, stuck in panic, trying to figure out what he should do next. He's broke as a joke, just a pack of cursed tools sitting in his hands, and nothing else. He strides through the roaring marketplace, eyes locked on everything around him. A vendor's simple question about a booth lights a spark, and an idea comes roaring to life. Cash's mocking words about that store slam into his head like a punch. He straight up admits he's been dreaming of owning his very own store for as long as he can remember. He imagines a life where he's finally free to steer his own destiny. Now he can dig into research and build exactly whatever he dreams up, no limits. Hope lights up his face in a real, genuine smile. He can't believe it, but this weird, sudden future feels like it was made for him, and it's got him feeling great. He bursts away full of grit, chasing cash like he's desperate for it. The story snaps right back to the Silver Wolf Pavilion Inn. A tight close-up zooms in on the wolf crest's jagged ends, howling like they're alive. A mouth-watering feast crashes onto the table, and the whole adventuring party dives in like it's their next big win. Melissa gushes that it feels like a breath of fresh air without the gale. And Chide's money isn't there because he's going easy. He's getting nothing soft from it. Luke admits they should have thrown him out way earlier. Morris sits in dead silence, eyes locked on the party like she's studying every move. Norris and Luke erupted into a loud, lewd laugh that tore through the room. Melissa tells everyone that Gale used to cast spells on their gear. A massive, mind-bending magical seal crashes into place above them, blazing with power. Panic erupts as their gear starts glowing out of nowhere. Mora spots the spell's power instantly and realizes it's a dispel. The magic circle cracks apart, its power fully spent. A rough wooden barrel rests on the table like it's waiting for trouble. A whole bowl of snacks sits right beside it, begging to be grabbed. Everything's silent for just one breath right before the chaos explodes. The party gets blindsided, everyone's suddenly battered, confused, and scrambling. More as I widened in sudden realization. She snaps the truth into place. It's a high-level dispel. Melissa fires off a blunt accusation she claims Gale is retaliating. Luke glares into the darkness, wishing they'd actually killed him. Mora snaps that their theory is totally nonsensical. She tells them, "That dispel spell can't touch you." Gale had to have just snapped his own spell undoing itself. She decides he never meant to hurt them. Cash scoffs. Sure, Gale has zero power. Melissa nods and vows, "I'm gonna smash you, just you wait." Mora storms in, trying to cut through their foolish talk before it gets any worse. She pleads for them to hear her, swearing with everything in her that it was an attack. Cash steps up as party leader and makes it crystal clear who's in charge. He slams it down and declares, "Gale is our enemy now." Nor does gleefully suggest burning Gale alive. Luke shrugs off his weakness like it's just his imagination running wild. He swears he'll slice Gale's fingers off one by one. The party spirals into ruthless, non-stop fighting. Every word turns into a punch. Mora finally realizes their weakness wasn't a lie at all. It was the truth staring them in the face. She remembers the feeling barely there, but it still flickers in her mind. The moment the dispel kicked in, her whole team's power suddenly plummeted, like someone yanked the life out of their stats. It felt like that unbeatable power-up just got ripped out of thin air. She stares into the impossible, letting the terrifying implications sink in. Melissa shoots her a worried look and asks if something's wrong. Mora knows the Cursifiers can't buff no matter what. But if his tools could pull that off, it'd be absolutely unreal. That kind of power is way past what any regular curse officer could ever handle. She stares into the darkness, quietly weighing a thought so terrifying it feels like it might swallow her whole. Cash Calls is snapping at his teammates, demanding they get the order done. Melissa cozies up to Cash with a warm, affectionate snuggle. The others stare back in pure disgust. Could this party really be S rank when he isn't there? Mora can't stop wondering, could it really be possible? Gale's got a hidden power underneath it all. Far away, Gale tears out of the city and leaves it swallowed by the distance. Cash shoots Gale a dismissive look and barrels past it, cutting straight to a new topic. He snaps at the party to set their sights on tomorrow. His team hangs on every word he's about to drop, waiting to see what he says. They burst into cheers, itching to prove they've got the power to back it up. Their very first S-rank quest. They're hunting a behemoth. Melissa gritted her teeth, hungry for a real challenge. And there's no scoffing at the supposed difficulty. Luke brags that they could pull it off with zero trouble, like it's nothing. More stared on and a heavy dread curled in their chest. The party lifts their mugs high and toasts together, like the night's about to explode. But they're still blind to the truth, at least for now. They have no clue how powerful that man they tossed out really is. And they don't even realize what's really biting them from the inside. Moira chugs her drink in one savage gulp. She drops the empty mug onto the table with a hard, furious slam. Meanwhile, Gale bursts after a sticky-fingered bird that's stolen everything it can. A flashy title card slams onto the screen and kicks off the story. A pumpkin-headed man pops up and asks Gale if she wants a stall. Gale can't wait. He eagerly shoots back, "Yeah, I do." He storms into the Merchants Guild, ready to make his move. That perfect spot will set you back 4 gold every single day. Gale stands right in front of the guildmaster's desk, staring him down. He nervously counts his tiny, dwindling money like it's about to vanish. All he's got to his name are 3 measly silver coins. He fires off a question about the cheapest street market around. He decides to plant his shop right there. He slams down his window display case with a loud clunk. His brand new stall looked ancient and grimy, like it hadn't been touched in years. Guildmaster handed him a use kit, and it came straight with purpose. Gale is plotting his very first day in business like it's do or die. He's about to unload his last stash of curse tools. He can't stop wondering what the perfect price would be. He flashes a quick thought at his business plan, like it's the next move in his whole game. He'll slam in just enough to pay for the materials. He dumps his wares all over the place in a chaotic, cluttered pile. The guildmaster storms back, then stops cold, realizing he forgot something. He shoots the messy stall a disgusted look, like it's personally offended him. He rams a hard smack into Gale and calls the whole setup a total disaster. He's adamant this display can't stand until it's given the perfect layout. His hands rip through the task, snapping everything into place with expert precision. He snaps a necklace onto a display hook like it's ready for the spotlight. The stall morphs into a full-on real shop. Gale is practically overflowing with gratitude, thanking him again and again for saving the day. The man leans in and drops a few final business tips before he walks away. He throws one last wave over his shoulder and heads off, disappearing down the road. Gale gets wrecked. His eyes flood with tears because of the kindness he's shown. He can't forget the way his old party mocked him. He rips his resolve into place and tightens his collar like he's ready to strike. He stares at his favorite eyeball necklace like it's something he's never getting back. With a heavy heart, he forces himself to sell it. He hooks the grotesque piece up and lets it hang there, like a nightmare given a place to live. With a wicked grin, he bursts out, "It's time to sell." He can't lie to himself. Nerves are crawling up his spine. He can't stop stressing over how the world will react to his work. He slaps his own cheeks to hype himself up and get ready. He takes a deep breath and forces his nerves to settle. He bursts into the crowd, roaring his sales pitch like it's a battle cry. A family in the market suddenly whips their heads around like something just snapped in the air. He calls everyone in and pushes his debuff items like they're the key to instantly turning the fight against you. He swears his one-of-a-kind wares are dirt cheap. Gale lights up and warmly welcomes a customer to his stall. A woman squints at him and challenges, "Why do you even need those tools?" He lays out the edge they've got and then hits you with the truth anybody can use them. The gathered adventurers finally get what he's saying. A brand new guy freezes in disbelief when he realizes his prices are insanely low. Gale tells them straight up he only charges for his labor, not a cent more. He spreads his arms and flashes his massive lineup of wares like a magician about to blow your mind. The man decides to hunt down cheap stuff and buy whatever he can. He snaps his focus away, caught by something else. He leans in and fires off a question about this one-of-a-kind sword and that strange barrel, too. Gale lays out what it does, crushing your agility and stripping your armor down. And it even throws in a solid 10 boost to your other stats, too. He's about to drop the last game-changing detail. He declares, loud and fearless, that the sword is cursed. The man slams the blade down with a thunderous clatter. He demanded Gale confirm every word he'd just said. The adventurer rubs the back of his head, glaring like he's sick of it. He's certain nobody with a brain would ever choose to buy something cursed on purpose. Gale whips around in a flash and declares it's interior design. The man can't believe this wild new sales pitch. He's staring like it's got him figured out. He finally cracks and admits the grotesque design isn't as awful as it looked. He snatches it up to keep evil spirits away. Gale slips 3 dispelled talismans into the gift bag. He leans back and grins, replaying the sales move that just crushed it. That brutal spiky skull necklace blasts your stats straight up, giving you a 50 boost. Fur-lined boots crank your agility up by a massive 150. A spy crossbow is locking in shots with pinpoint precision boost stats, turning every hit into a guaranteed slam. A grin on his face, the customer strides off with a crossbow in hand. Gale realizes he just handed out way too many dispels. He shrugs it off like it's nothing, and that confidence hangs in the air like a thick, unstoppable fog. A new customer steps in and demands answers about a specific cursed tool. Gale can't stop thinking about those Berserker Legends' cursed armor, death in every heartbeat. That lit the fuse for his entire business model total transparency. A roaring crowd swarms his stall, lured in by ruthless rumors. He shouts loud sales and sweet freebies, pitching everything like a one-man storm. The sun sinks behind the city rooftops, and the whole place starts to glow like it's on the verge of something big. By day's end, his stall is wiped clean. No food, no customers, just emptiness. He grins as he hoists his now light back up again. He reels from one customer's wild, one-of-a-kind compliment. Suddenly, he hears the whole street erupt with noise. A wild crowd barrels into him, clawing through the chaos for dispelled talismans. They crumble into silence the second he declares he's sold out. Gale finally clocks it. Those talismans weren't just collectibles. They were the whole bait. He freezes in shock, staring at the dejected crowd like the air just got ripped away. They swarm him, begging him to unleash a nasty curse on their gear so it becomes talismans. He slams out of the aggressive bartering before it can swallow him. The story abruptly cuts away from the market scene. It slips over to a nearby tavern. An adventurer dares his buddy to slip on a cursed ring and live to regret it or live to survive. His friend bursts into laughter, then slips the ring onto his finger like it was meant to be there. He checks his status, and the ring softly glows like it's reacting to him. His face twists into pure jaw-dropping shock. He breathes out in awe that ring's power is straight-up unreal. His friends stare at his status, completely thrown off. That ring supercharged him, blasting every single stat up by a full 50. A party member freezes in shock, staring at the sheer earth-shaking power. They can't believe a tiny ring has that much power. An old man lounges on a table like he owns the whole room, calm and satisfied. He muses that it's not a curse at all if he never bothers to get rid of it. The first adventurer leans in and listens like every word matters, soaking up the chatter. He leaned in and grilled his friend about why that temple's prices were insanely high. His friend chews him out for even thinking about reselling. He grimaces at the mere thought of those temple priests. The priests demand gold coins, only then will they cast a dispel. They all agree the curse officer is insanely skilled. The man with the ring can't stop wondering who is he really. His friend freezes for a second, squinting hard, trying to remember where he's seen that face before. It's like that cursor just showed up from his past. He's seen it before, for sure. Gale once took the weight of his party's curses on his own shoulders. Not a single soul suspected he could craft S-rank items. Whispers of the crucifixer start flying around like wildfire. The whole story yanks the clock back by just a few hours. A brand new scene is about to explode onto the screen. A dense, silent forest unfolded before us, like the world had gone still and was holding its breath. A brutal punch tears the calm to pieces. A colossal tree is split clean open, crashing down and splintering into the earth below. A furious explosion detonates from deep inside the forest canopy. Cash gets launched through the air, hacking for breath like he can't believe what just hit him. He crumples to the ground, utterly crushed, blood slicking his wounds. Luke snaps out a curse as a fresh trickle of blood spills down his nose. Norris blew past the noise and demanded answers. Why is all this happening? Mora and Melissa stared, totally stunned, as if the world had just broken. Cash's mouth spills blood, and it splatters down onto the earth. He hauls his massive greatsword across the dirt, scraping up the ground with every brutal drag. He groans as he hauls himself upright, bracing on his blade like it's the only thing keeping him standing. Then bam. Their opponent finally shows up, and it's a single colossal ogre that looks unstoppable. Cash bursts into a roar, drowning in pure helpless rage. He erupts in a scream, brain refusing to grasp how they could have failed. The manga's title card slams onto the screen, signaling the story's about to kick off. A flashback hits and there's Gale, locked in his room, hammering away like his life depends on it. Luke fires off questions because he's bringing Mora along on an S-rank quest. Cassian tells her, "Trust me, you'll fit just fine." The party leans in and tells Mora they're counting on her. Cash stands his ground, watching on with stern confidence. He locks eyes on the ogre and snaps, "Perfect target." He pitches a wild idea, use the beast as their warm-up. Cash kicks off the chaos by screaming a full-on war cry and unleashing the fight. Luke raises his bow and lines up the shot, ready to unleash an arrow any second now. The party barrels straight at the massive ogre, ready to slam the fight into overdrive. Luke looses his arrow and it tears through the air like a missile, sailing past the target completely. Melissa erupted, screaming at everyone's incompetence at the party. She looked that ogre straight in the face and called him a wimp. The ogre slammed into her and sent her flying backward like a wrecking ball. Cash cursed and slammed into a tree hard. He screamed at Norris to fire off a spell. Not even for one last second, he refuses to beg. His spell spat out a tiny, pathetic flame that barely even dared to burn. Cash scoffed at that useless magic like it was nothing but a joke. He clenched his teeth so hard it was pure frustration spilling out of him. The ogre leaned in, ready to crush him like it was nothing. He twisted out of danger at the absolute last second. Mora sprinted over, desperate to see if he was all right. Cash snapped her head up, glaring like she'd just caught them in the act. He barked at her to start slinging buffs right then. Mora swore up and down that she'd been polishing them non-stop. She'd been at it non-stop the entire time. Her mana was nearly drained right down to the last sliver. She slammed her staff into the ground like she was staking a claim to fate. A brilliant beam of light exploded around her like the world was cracking open. A blazing magic circle erupted at Cash's feet, lighting up the ground like it had been waiting for this moment. She blurted out that she'd doubled their stats like it was pure magic. Cash's confidence exploded as he charged forward. He roared a dare straight at the monster. The ogre leaned in and asked straight up if he wanted to play. Cash was sure that shot connected right on the money. But the ogre snatched his blade in an instant like it weighed nothing. It picked its nose like it didn't have a care in the world and somehow acted completely unimpressed. Cash couldn't believe it. His devastating punch got stopped dead in its tracks. They hoisted him into the sky like it was nothing. The ogre hurled him aside like he was nothing but a crumpled toy. Cash hit the ground, shell-shocked and absolutely humiliated. He snapped his rage straight at Mora. He spat that she was a useless, failed mage. Mora snapped back and refused to swallow his insults. She declared, "I'm trying something new next." She yanked a scroll out of the gale. She prayed it would finally break down the yogurt. Cash snatched it from her hands and slammed the door shut on her using it. He slammed Gale's items as useless trash. Mora's mind snapped back to Gale's letter, the one he'd written to them. She pressed Cash for answers as his sudden defiance erupted out of nowhere. She jogged his memory and pulled his old strategy right back to the surface. Defeated at last, she crumpled to the ground, all fight draining out of her. Cash snapped that it was all Gale's fault. He slammed his hand down and swore the dispel wasn't a cure at all, it was a curse. Melissa didn't even hesitate. She snapped right into accepting the excuse. Norris snapped that his weakness was the curse's fault. Luke acted like he'd known it all from the start. They threw in the towel and called it a day. Cash couldn't stop wondering why all of this was happening to him. The party pressed him until he finally backed off and retreated. They bolted the moment the ogre's attention slipped. Cash surged to his feet, rallying everyone and straight up blamed the curse for what was happening. Moro stared at their cowardice in disgust, like it made his blood boil. She grilled them like, "So how are you S rank exactly?" Cash suddenly got a horrifying idea. He spotted that Mora was totally fine, no injuries, not a scratch. They picked her to be the decoy and sent her in first. They left her behind, laughing and waving like nothing ever happened. All four of them sprinted like the end of the world was chasing them. Mora was shoved to the side, stuck alone with her yoga. The monsters look at her like she's doomed, and somehow they pity her anyway. She tore the air apart with a scream full of raw, unfiltered rage. She flung the scroll at them and yelled, "You're all morons!" With a blinding flash, it came to life. A giant wall of smoke exploded into the sky. Mora stared in shock, still unable to wrap her head around just how unstoppable that power was. She slipped into the chaos, using the smoke like a perfect hiding blanket. She sprinted through the forest, vanishing deeper into the trees. The party finally stumbled onto a calm, peaceful patch of land to crash and rest. Cash groaned like all hope just got crushed, utterly defeated. Everyone else started snapping about the deal, like they couldn't believe it was even happening. They wasted no time. Everyone started pointing the fingers straight at Mora. Luke and Norris confessed they'd fallen off. Cash was dead certain he had the answer, right there in the palm of his mind. Melissa snapped at Mora and pinned every single disaster on her. Everyone else brushed off her reasoning like it didn't matter one bit. She pouted as they brushed her off. Norris clocked her weakness the second her buffs kicked in. Luke laughed at mock Norris, cracking him for that painfully slow spell. Cash snapped that every bit of it was Gale's fault. And finally, the world caught up to them right when it mattered most. Cash leaned in and flashed a smirk like he already knew something she didn't. He roared with praise as she finally brought down the ogre. Mora was utterly wiped out. Cash spots something weird in her arms. He leaned in and demanded answers about the weird little creature. Meanwhile, Gale was out there soaking up every moment at the city market, loving every bite and every bustle. He shoved his joy onto him himself, grinning like he just won the world. He thought running that stall was the best kind of thrill. He made a bold wish for a wider mix of customers to walk through his door. Most people only glanced at his wares before looking away. Most adventurers could only dream of getting just one of those talismans. Out of nowhere, a door nearby blasted open with a violent rattling sound. A graceful noblewoman stepped out like the room belonged to her. Gale stared at her, totally hooked by the mystery in her eyes. Later, he stormed into the guildmaster's place. With a bright grin, he cheerfully asked for a fresh stall spot. He told the master everything, his whole situation, straight from the heart. The guildmaster just had a brilliant idea that lit the whole room up. Two elegant ladies glide through the streets, savoring every step on their leisurely stroll. The rich district is packed and buzzing, non-stop people swirling everywhere. Gentlemen lean in and swap whispers as a cart rumbles past. Gale just stormed into the nobles' district. His brand new stall is set in the absolute perfect spot. He understands nobles' true worth, and he chooses style over anything as plain as utility. He can't stop picturing nobles swarming his stall the second it opens. His one-of-a-kind taste didn't just set him apart, it could blow up into high fashion. He's got his heart set on landing a commission straight from the castle. And then, out of nowhere, a darker memory crashes to the surface for a split second. He remembers that creepy adventurer, eyes blazing red and bloodshot like something hunted him. That blazing stare still haunts me, and it's downright unsettling. He straight up admits that anyone would be terrified. He wastes no time and shuts the whole worry down. With fresh fire burning in his chest, he throws himself into the new day. He grins and throws open the doors, welcoming his very first customers like it's the start of something huge. A mysterious woman lingers nearby, watching everything like she's waiting for the perfect moment. She cranes her head toward his stall, her curiosity buzzing like sparks. "My snitching ring party fired me." Mora spits out an angry demand for answers. The wolf pack snarls at her with pure, vile scorn. She clocks those brutal insults for what they are, pure venom. Cash looks totally wrecked, like their whole quest went sideways and left them battered. The ogre's shriveling curse starts to fade, and its power finally lets go. The ogre bursts back into its terrifying full size, towering like a living nightmare. Cash's scream tears through the air. She demands that everyone back off and she take it down alone. The whole party jerks back when the ogre pounds the ground with a brutal stomp. They try to sneak in and use Mora as a sacrifice, but it screams with cowardice. The whole party bolts, running for their lives. The forlorn ogre drops a jaw-dropping truth: he's a vegetarian. Days later, they burst back into the inn like nothing happened. The wolf pack gets completely wiped out. They're filthy, burning with thirst, and completely wrecked from exhaustion. Their stench blasts through the whole in common room, choking everyone in its path. Mora spits the truth with icy cruelty, blaming them for the fate they brought on themselves. Cash barged in and demanded service like it owed him money. He and Luke grumble nonstop about how it all ends. The innkeeper strides up with a grim, no-nonsense glare. She slams one glass down on the table with a loud final thud. It's just one glass of water for every single one of them. They blow up in pure outrage over how they're being treated. She snaps that they're low-lives people who refuse to pay. The innkeeper refused to bend, unshaken, unfazed, and standing his ground. Their advance money just ran dry. She snaps and demands they cough up every last coin they owe. Cash glares at his empty coin purse like it just betrayed him. His hand shakes as the humiliating truth crushes him. That clueless party keeps pressing him to cough up the money. Cash is scrambling for an excuse, because money problems won't give him a break. Melissa blew all their money on themselves. Norris and Luke got completely wiped. Every piece of their equipment was gone. Cash's custom greatsword lay ruined, shattered beyond saving. That wolf pack is totally broke, like empty pockets, no hope. The whole pack hit rock bottom. The innkeeper leaned in, demanding their answer. She demands 6 silver just so they can stay. Melissa's still got a dry throat, and the thirst won't quit. She rips the only water away for herself. Mora slams an order at the bar, demanding a drink and a full plate to go with it. Melissa slams down every last drop in that glass, no sharing, no hesitation. Mora demands, "Why are you all staring at me?" They drag her through the mud because she won't hand over her money. She straight up declares, "This money, it's mine." They cling to that arrogant, shattered promise like a fresh wound. Cash twists his own past words like they never happened. Melissa leans in, flashing a threatening smile like a warning you can't ignore. She leans in hard, trying to scare Mora into coughing up the money. They swarm together and go after Gale, pinning every single mistake on him. Cash lunges in, trying to rip the money pouch right out of our hands. They sneer at her like her huge paycheck is the punchline. Mora finally hit her breaking point. Cashiers are mumbling a chilling threat like they've got something wicked planned. He tears her down, calling her a weak support mage. His insult dies the second her fist crashes into him. She drives a devastating punch straight into his jaw. The rest of the party goes totally mute, stunned out of their minds. Money rockets through the air, smashing across the room like a thrown shockwave. He slams headfirst into a pile of barrels, and the whole thing shatters on impact. Rage sparks across Melissa's face as she twitches with pure fury. She snatches a wooden stool and slams it into the fight. She screams a filthy insult and lands a vicious strike. Mora snaps aside without breaking a sweat, dodging that clumsy attack like it's nothing. Melissa's jaw drops when she realizes just how insanely fast she is. She finally realizes her strike only landed on Mora's cape. Maria whips past, and you can barely even track her in the blur. Her hood slips off, and an angry glare burns straight through the air. They scramble to soothe an enraged Mora before it all explodes. She shrieks at them, "Shut up!" The mages barreled ahead, closing in with a deadly threat to her. She stomps down on their glowing magic circle, crushing it under her heel. Their devastating spell fizzles into nothing the moment it hits the air. She rockets into the air for one last do-or-die strike. She stomps them both flat under her feet, the other one in Patron's watch frozen in disbelief. She sucks in a shaky breath, clutching herself after the fight's chaos. She's still buzzing, completely refreshed after that brutal brawl. She flashes a heartfelt apology to the amused innkeeper, and he can't stop smirking. She clings to one last job she has to finish. With a bright, carefree grin, she quits the party for good. The story snaps back to Gale's brand new stall. A noble lady spots his wares and goes, "What in the world is this?" because they're pure, mind-bending eccentricity. A noble woman spots Gale's basilisk lamp and can't stop staring at it, like it's got her hooked from the start. He praises her taste then. Right before her eyes, he reveals the cursed lantern. His customer's jaw drops when they realize the thing they bought is cursed. The butler steps up, ready to take control of the chaos. Gale jolts with a startled yelp, then yanks herself back like she can't believe it. The butler slams the accusation, saying he's foisted a curse on them. Gale shrugs it off like it's nothing, just a plain interior decoration. The butler leans in, eyes sharp, hanging on every word as Gale explains everything. He settles in and starts wrestling with the real meaning of nobles. She shoved even more money into his hands than he ever dared to ask for. People snatch up his handmade stuff like it's priceless. But when it comes to anything you use up, they flat out ignore it. He stretches hard, then locks in ready to pack up for the day. He clenches his fist, shoulders sagging as a heavy blow of sadness hits him. He still remembers that first jolt of disgust hitting him the second he faced his work. People stare at his designs, confused and intrigued, but nobody actually likes them. He can't help but wonder if his own tastes are weird. He clamps down on the bracelet like it might disappear at any second. A voice calls out, asking if he's really about to shut the place down. A woman creeps up behind his stall and steps right into his space. A gorgeous woman glides up to him, her gentle smile pulling him in like a spell. He can't stop wondering what if she's actually a noble in disguise. He watches her closely, curiosity sparking in his eyes. A female knight peeks from around the corner, watching everything unfold. Tonight, I'm going to watch that interaction unfold close, intense, and with my heart racing. He groans that every single one of his designs turns out bizarre and twisted. With a bright, fearless grin, she declares that she loves it. She lights up and gushes that one of his rings is totally cute. He freezes in shock, realizing that was his very first compliment. He's so happy he's practically glowing, just beaming from ear to ear. He leans in and praises her for that razor-sharp eye. He's convinced she's a noble in disguise. He forces a casual act so he won't ruin the surprise. He slashes the prices because he's shutting the place down. She spills the truth she ditched her wallet back at the palace. She snaps her hand over her mouth the second she slips up. She flashes a wink and tells him, "Relax, I only meant my spot." He keeps pushing, telling her to just hand over whatever she wants to pay. He winks at his fans, grinning like this is the reward they've earned. She nods once, then presses a coin into his palm. He goes wide-eyed as a shiny gold coin slams into view. He's completely stunned. She casually flips a gold coin like it's nothing. He shouts for her to wait just for a moment. She flashes a wicked grin, raises the ring like a trophy, and walks right out. He waves back, totally swept up by her smile. He jerks in terror as a brutal realization crashes into him. The armored woman shoots him a cold, furious glare from the corner. He left out the curse details and didn't hand over a single talisman. He whips his head around in panic, but she's just disappeared. He looks around and realizes the street is totally deserted now. He panics hard, frantically thinking, what do I even do right now? He forces himself to believe the ring's curse can't touch him. He remembers how brutally strong it is and how it leaves a mark that nature can't erase. He's praying she's loaded enough to fund a temple visit. He can't shake the fear that she wasn't playing about the palace. A young woman gets yanked into a dark alley before she can even react. A stern attendant grabs her attention and tears into her, scolding her hard. The attendant leans in and tells the night watch, "I secured it." Royal guards grab her as she thrashes and fights, hauling her away. The story snaps over to the massive royal palace, stretching out like a kingdom built to swallow secrets. The guards stand around staring at the grand door like something's about to break loose. Then bam, the woman is revealed as Princess Carla. The princess juts her puffed cheeks in pure boiling annoyance. The scene snaps to the city rooftops, stretching out like a battlefield under the sky. Gale strides down the street with his hands shoved deep in his pockets. A stranger yanks his shoulder and shouts his name, calling him back in. A guard stops him cold, interrogating him hard to find the suspect. He whips around and his face twists into that of an old man. The guard looks totally lost, then snaps his question back like it never left his mouth. He waves it off, letting the guard's apology slide like it's water off a duck's back. He slams a dispel talisman into place and snaps back to normal. He finally snaps back to normal, and he lets out a shaky sigh like he can breathe again. He can't believe it. Why are the royal guards hunting him down? And then he made the call to leave town real soon. A group of kids corners him and begs for a magic trick. The anime title blazes across a card screen like the story is about to kick the door down. The story snaps right back to the royal palace. Vivian spits out that the ring is pure blasphemy against the church. She insists, "You've got to mix with the common folks if you want it to matter." Vivian stared on, eyes heavy, like she didn't buy a single word of what she was seeing. A skull vase looms in the room's corner like it's daring anyone to come closer. An animal's head is mounted on the wall, hanging there like a trophy. A creepy chest with a skeletal face lurks on the floor, staring like it's about to wake up. Vivian can't figure out why people keep falling for all of this. Vivian's eyes snapped up, and she remembered she had a meeting she couldn't miss. Vivian watches from the sidelines, her eyes heavy with exhaustion and locked in seriousness. Carla keeps getting pulled off guard by the ring blazing on her finger. She drags that grotesque ring onto her finger, like it's about to bite back. Vivian begs everyone not to wear it to the meeting. A cursed ring glows with dark energy, and it pours out like a deadly curse. Gale's simple meal sits on a tray so delicious it practically dares you to take a bite. He savors every bite like it's pure gold because this meal tastes insanely good. He's absolutely killing it, and you can tell he's got a real gift for this. He can't afford to forget it. He's got to grab more materials, like right now. He's stuck making miracles out of scavenger scraps. He decides to leave town and dive headfirst into quests in a whole new city. He halts mid-stairs, and that familiar sound hits his ears like a jolt. He leans around the corner and locks eyes on where the noise is coming from. The wolf pack storms in, demanding a loan of gold pieces right now. The receptionist flashes a smile and gets ready to shut you down with a polite, airtight refusal. She drags their failure to finish a single quest right back into the spotlight. The receptionist grills Cash, picking apart his story about the ogre. She grins, because they already managed to bait it right into the city. Cash clenched his teeth and snapped that she was nothing but a desk girl. She coldly rattles off every recent failure and then slams a fresh chunk of debt onto the table. From across the room, Gale flinches at the sheer fury blazing in her face. She crushes the paper in her fist and hammers back one more time for their loan. The whole wolf pack goes stone still, terror slamming into every single one of them. Cash finally blurts that Gale caused everything and he can't take the blame off him. He cackles like a villain after finally nailing the perfect scapegoat. Gale's jaw drops when she hears that wild, outrageous accusation. Melissa insists their stats get slashed to nothing and that every buff is basically pointless. Everyone else nods along, then brands their new support mage as useless right to his face. The receptionist lets out a sharp sigh, ready to set the whole thing straight and crush their ignorance. She declares Mora is one of the city's best support mages. She can't shake the regret of pushing Mora into that amazing party. The wolf pack is totally thrown off by this shocking news. Gael's jaw drops when he realizes Mora isn't just someone she's a huge deal. His jaw slams open in pure stunned shock. The receptionist says Gale, and his ear twitches like something's about to snap. She dubs him a flawless cursive officer, perfect every single time, never messing up. Blushing hard, she gushes, praising how insanely valuable his talismans are. Gale remembers every moment with them, and somehow the story in their head is totally different. She whips around and orders them to settle their debt first. Cash roars defiantly that they'll pay it back. The whole party nods in sync and signs up for the easy quests like, "All right, let's start with something manageable." They bolt out of the guild hall in a furious huff, like the whole place just lit a fuse. Gale can't shake the dread that they still believe he cursed them. He slips out before they can spot him and hunt him down. He strides straight toward the guild's towering wooden doors. Outside, he spots two royal guards sprinting by like they're on a mission. The guards can't stop gossiping. Apparently, the princess and Vivian have started another fight. Gale can't believe his eyes. Royal guards are doing a job this weird. He storms down the street, eyes locked on a shop he can't stop staring at. He stares down at his own tattered rags, like they're a punchline to his bad luck. He decides to swing by for the special occasion. A shop bell clatters like a gunshot as the door swings wide. Inside the palace, he hurls a sword to the ground in a burst of rage. Struggling to keep his hands off her, he fought with everything in him to restrain a furious Vivian. Princess Carla hisses under her bedsheets, teeth clenched like a trapped storm. Vivian screams that the grotesque ring is cursed and will bring nothing but doom. Carla swears she just wants to peek and find out what it looks like. She slips the cursed ring onto her finger, and the moment it clicks in place, everything changes. A dark, ominous energy swirls through the royal bedchamber, like trouble is already breathing down their neck. Carla and Vivian are left completely stunned by the sheer power. A blood-curdling scream rips through the palace tower. The attendant drops to their knees and begs the princess to rip that ring off. Vivian's eyes flash with a terrifying, unshakable resolve. She lifts her sword high, aiming to slice the finger clean off. Shouts and desperate cries to defend the princess echo through every hallway of the castle. Princess Carla storms into the meeting hall, flanked by the delegates. The delegates can't stop praising her glowing, radiant look. One of them spots the ribbon wrapped around her finger. Carla laughs it off like it's nothing more than a harmless little mishap. She smiles and pours a steaming cup of tea for her guests, right then and there. The lead delegate slinks back with a sly, sinister grin. They swap in sweet treats from their very own country like, "Here, try this." The princess practically sparkles with excitement at the idea of those imperial sweets. A servant yanks open the massive crate of desserts, and pure sweetness spills out like a secret finally unleashed. A crate sits packed tight with strange bundles, each one wrapped up like a secret someone tried to hide. Vivian snaps to it she's under attack. Assassins burst from the shadows, blades bared, already poised to strike. Poison bolts streak straight for the princess, closing in fast. An assassin makes her a chilling deal quick, painless death, like it's already sealed. The royal guards charge in full sprint, throwing themselves in front of her to shield her with their lives. Carla shrieks at the top of her lungs, throwing her arms up to shield her head in pure terror. Bolts screamed as they slammed into an unseen magical barrier, bursting sparks in every direction. Every single projectile gets swatted aside with zero damage, like it never even had a chance. The assassin's strikes crash and burn, leaving them in stunned silence. Vivian and Carla stand there totally thrown off, both just as confused. The assassins unleash another volley of bolts and it fizzles out, accomplishing nothing. Their strike gets totally swallowed up by the shield, like it never even touched them. Carla suddenly finds herself trapped inside a dark, cursed barrier, like the world just slammed shut around her. She glances down at the ring on her finger and it hits her like a spark. She can still see that kind man's face, the one who sold it to her. Vivian clenched her teeth, seething with frustration. She snaps orders to the guards, sprint in, grab the assassins, and lock them up. Vivian darts to the princess, and relief hits. They're both unharmed. She can't believe it. Why would they play pretend and claim they're from the Empire? The princess watches with a worried, tense look etched across her face. The lead assassin snaps into action and decides they need to hunt down a safe haven fast. A fancy, ornate symbol is carved right above the temple entrance, like it's warning you not to step in lightly. They burst into a massive chamber known as the Hall of the Stars. Two men are left reeling, stunned by the ring's unreal, earth-shaking power. Vivian leaned in and quizzed the experts for their verdict. Priest Bishop Uriel breaks into praise, marveling at the maker's flawless, masterful skill. He breaks down how that ring's clever double curse design works. But then he drops the bombshell. There's way more to this than you ever guessed. He hands over the last details to either a compliment or a straight-up showdown. Arsal drops the truth: this power grants instant kill resistance. The princess and Vivian are left utterly speechless by the shock of this news. Arzel braces himself, ready to hand down his final classification. He slams the truth down and declares that ring is a cursed relic, no doubt about it. The appraiser bursts with pure professional joy. His monocle nearly bursts off his eye from pure exploding excitement. Vivian tears into him for acting totally unprofessional. She remembers that the angel shield hits with the same kind of power. Arzel nods, still catching his breath from that wild burst of excitement. Uriel stares in awe at the jaw-dropping power packed into that tiny item. Its strength hits as hard as the Demon Lord's own heartbeat. The legendary Imperial artifact fires up with the same kind of insane buffs. The Demon Lord's heart sinks into its wielder and drains every last drop of life. Every time someone grabs for ultimate power, the universe demands a price right on time. It was the kind of law the whole universe obeyed, set in stone. No way to bend it. But this ring demanded almost nothing from him. Carla leaned in and asked Vivian, "Do you remember that young guy?" Vivian locked eyes and confirmed she remembered his face crystal clear. She sucked in a sharp breath, instantly seeing what the princess was planning. She practically begged to hunt him down and make him pay for justice. The princess lunged toward him to thank him for saving the day. That cursed ring should have doomed her, but somehow it clawed its way into saving her life. She blurted out that she just had to see him one last time. Elsewhere, the capital cracked open to a brand new day. Gale let out a hearty chuckle, grinning like he'd just snagged the best prize ever. His new gear was all business, packed with the right tools and ready for anything. He stuffed his cursed tools and his dagger into his bag, ready for whatever nightmare came next. With a grin, he knew it was time to blow this scene and head out. He threw one last glance across the royal capital, like he was memorizing it for the fight that was coming. Cool morning air chilled his face as he pushed forward. Down in the city, everyone started their day at once. He couldn't shake the gut feeling that this was the last time he'd ever set foot here. He strolled through a tight alley with a grin that wouldn't quit. The alley up ahead swallowed everything in thick black shadow. He stopped dead, like something in the dark was staring back. Cold ripped through the air ahead, and someone was trembling like crazy. The wolf pack erupted into bitter arguments, shivering in the cold like misery had teeth. For one tense second, he couldn't shake the feeling that they looked weirdly familiar. But he shut the whole idea down fast, calling it impossible without a second thought. City streets erupted with nonstop motion, like the whole place was alive. Agar roared for more men to be thrown into the fight. A squad of guards suddenly tore past him like a flash of steel. He couldn't help but wonder why the Royal Knights had suddenly shown up. The capital army didn't hold back for a second. They rolled out in full force. His foot stomps down on something sitting on the ground. He stopped in his tracks and stared hard at the poster plastered on the wall. A wanted poster hung there, and damn, every detail matched him perfectly. The guards checked everything. Every inch of the city was under nonstop watch. He got hit with an insult and it crushed him, because he was convinced his taste was flawless. The search was turning into a nightmare. Everything kept slipping out of reach. On a late-night patrol, he suddenly clocked Gale out of nowhere. The night clocked it. His look matched the suspect profile perfectly. He fumed in silence, determined to prove his style was flawless. The knight realized he wasn't messy enough to make the mess believable. The knight threw him off like he meant nothing, and Gale bolted out of there in a heartbeat. He berated himself for taking too long to leave the city. He finally burst through the gate and reached the wagon depot. Dozens of wagons rolled up, each one daring you to pick where you'd go next. He started thinking about trading his small life for a big job in another major city. He stared at the choice in front of him: merchant life or a military town. A driver blurted out a wild last-minute deal for 2 open spots. He was headed straight for the agricultural town of Farm Edge. The thought of fresh food made his mouth water instantly. He shouted with pure excitement that he was going to claim that spot. At the same moment, another hand shot up. He whipped around and locked eyes with the hooded Mora right next to him. They both suddenly clocked it. Neither of them had ever met before. Mora flashed him a grin and said, "Gale, right?" He suddenly remembered her. Then she stepped up and said, "I'm Mora." He tried to remember her pretty face, and then his thoughts crashed into her massive assets. He couldn't stop staring at her chest. She yanked his face toward hers and demanded to know what this massive thing was. He begged for forgiveness, like even a man's got limits. Their wagon tore out of the city, blasting into the open road. Tension filled the room as they all just sat there, wordless and painfully awkward. The capital shrank away in slow motion, until it was just a distant blur. They tore through a dense, shadow-choked forest, pushing forward no matter what lurked between the trees. That endless ride was draining every last ounce of strength from Gale. Exhaustion slammed into him, and his head started to droop. He crumpled against her, and right away she snapped in complaint. They sat side by side, both of them squirming like the air itself was too tense. He insisted there wasn't a single inch of space to move. The wagon groaned under a haul of goods, and it was packed to the brim with mercenaries, ready for trouble. Gale couldn't believe she'd really quit the party. He told them to just keep their distance and make sure they didn't collide. He figured they hired her for one reason only. Her looks, plain and simple. They'd been trying to get rid of him for a long time. He finally cornered her and demanded to know why she decided to quit. Mora stared at him, utterly worn out, like she couldn't believe what she was seeing. She couldn't shake the feeling that she had to ask him the exact same question. With a long, heavy sigh, she braced herself and got ready to spell everything out. She finally spilled the whole truth. No more hiding. Gale couldn't believe it. Cash got taken down by one lousy ogre. She went on a furious rant, tearing the whole party apart as if they were completely useless. She couldn't believe she ever showed up to that trashy party. Gale couldn't wrap her head around the fact that she was actually talking about money. He laid out the real reason he had to bolt from the capital. She remembered the way they always pinned every single problem on him. She snapped back to reality and realized she'd been painfully insensitive. They dropped their pride and apologized, taking turns to fix each other's mess. She swallowed her pride and accepted his apology in silence. They rode in a way too peaceful silence, the kind that felt almost comfortable. Gale stared at her barely there luggage and realized she had almost nothing with her. He decided to hit her with a real treat, something to eat. He pulled a brand new baguette straight from his pack. He swung the blade and split the bread cleanly down the middle with expert precision. She tore into the ingredients, getting ready to build the sandwich from scratch. He piled juicy meat and crisp vegetables onto the bread. Then he finished it off with a dash of seasoning. He handed it over as a badge of honor for their brand new club. She scoffed and basically laughed like he wasn't even close to being a victim. That sandwich looked absolutely mouth-watering, like one bite would change everything. Mora's simple kindness hits like a punch, and it moves everyone around him. He snaps at her, "Don't overthink it, just let it go." He grabs his food and starts sharing it with everyone around him. She takes a huge, mouth-watering bite that feels impossibly satisfying. She blurts out, "This sandwich is insanely good." She's blown away by how fast he gets the job done. She leans in with a teasing grin and asks what he's really up to. She's left speechless by the insane price of that wine. She leaned in and grilled him about how he pulled off that killer market stall. She drops a bombshell about a rumored artifact class item. The princess dashed through the palace, hunting down the one seller who knew where the goods were. He finally realizes the terrifying truth. He still has her words about the palace etched in his mind. The memory hits him like a thunderclap and panic detonates in his chest. He frantically slams the idea down and insists it can't possibly be true. She leans in and asks if he could be the one. She flat out agrees, yeah, he absolutely doesn't. They all nod like it's fate, yeah, a sage should handle this. He grins and mimes himself like a mystical sage, teasing everyone with the performance. Their laughter streaks through the forest path, bouncing off every tree like a dare. Mora sighs, bursting with a fresh hit of laughter. They slapped palms together for a high five, and a fresh bond sparked between them. Filament wasn't lining up into a proper balanced pair. The wagon suddenly jolts hard, and they get flung forward like a surprise punch. In the pitch black, chaos explodes and everyone's lost in pure confusion. He screams a warning, orcs. The orcs are swarming in on them, closing every last inch of space. He can't help but notice his eyes light up as he marvels at just how soft they feel. She snaps, "Not now, this is the wrong moment." The wagon train is getting slammed by a full-blown attack. Outside, total chaos erupts. A guard lets out a shriek, then gets slammed down in an instant. A passenger begs them for help, and the air turns tense with every second. All the other passengers crumble into despair, like hope just got ripped out of their hands. And she whipped her eyes toward their wagon. A horde of orcs barrels toward them, shaking the ground with every brutal stomp. More whispers kept spreading that they'd been spotted. Only he and Mora are allowed to step into the fight. A mother's eyes are streaming as her crying child trembles in her arms. Mora's eyes flash with pure determination. She leans in and demands to know if he's carrying a weapon. She tells them there's no other option. This is the only path left. He's packing debuff items and a dagger, ready to ruin any fight. "Yeah, I'll take it," she says, like it's the only choice she's got. "If you're gonna argue they need a front line." Mora quietly steals her heart and takes her resolve back. "If you're going to die, you better at least fight for something." She strides in with total confidence, her support magic ready to turn the tide. Gale gets shaken by her sheer determination. "You'll step into the front line." He refuses to let a woman take the fight on her own. They're about to unleash the real power, and you're gonna see it hit them hard. They burst out into the open, squaring up and charging straight at the orcs. More upgrades are magical runestones. She snaps her arm forward and hurls a spell through the air. A blinding wall of light snaps into existence in the blink of an eye. A shimmering shield stands guard, protecting the wagon from every threat. It'll shrug off a few solid hits like nothing. She shoves the words at him, "Go on ahead." Gale yanks his dagger out of its sheath like he's about to strike. Mora plants her feet and raises her staff to cast a spell. A strange power slams into her, and her whole body starts trembling. A savage dark aura blasts out from his dagger. She can barely speak, just stammers, stunned like she can't even process what's happening. She can't help wondering what kind of power that is. Dark energy twists around him like a storm about to break. The blade breathes out a dark mist that curls through the air like a threat. "My party ripped me out and fired me on the spot for being a curse officer." He stands under a crushing dome of darkness. More explanations or buffs? That's going to take time. He'll use his tools to grind them to a halt. They're betting everything on stalling just long enough for help to arrive. They've got one shot, and if they miss, it's over. She leaned in and demanded why his daggers and that menacing aura felt like a warning meant only for her. He swears up and down it's just a normal dagger. He leans in and orders her to keep her eyes on his back. She braces herself and unleashes her ultimate spell. The spell won't last a second. It'll vanish the moment it's cast. But once it's unleashed, its power will be absolutely monstrous. She hurls her spell at full force, then bam, Omni Boost kicks in. He barrels ahead, screaming a battle cry like the fight is already won. He flings 2 cursed items ahead like a ticking time bomb. His aim is dead on, and the distance couldn't be more perfect. He flashes a grin and calls it a bullseye. Every single item slams down right on the spot he targeted. The CURS scroll suddenly kicks to life, sparking the activation process right away. He barrels straight at the stunned orcs, sprinting like the fight's about to explode. The orcs are locked in absolute bone-chilling terror, trembling to the core. The canyon turns into a full-blown nightmare hellscape. Gasp after gasp burst out, because that power was straight up unreal. Dark energy explodes in a deafening crash. The orcs freeze in pure terror, unable to move a muscle. She trembles as the curse's power crashes through her. This is the real terror hiding inside his debuffs. She's terrified that the curse will reach for her next. He rockets into the terrified crowd. He charges forward, blazing with intent like he's ready to take them all down, one after another. She screams that her buff isn't ready yet. He springs forward, dagger poised and ready to strike. He drops in on the helpless orc like a nightmare. Gale's eyes snap wide, blazing with the heat of battle. Mora blurts a frantic warning, screaming at Gale to watch out. She freezes in place, eyes wide, and can't even find the words, just stunned silence. Gale rockets forward and cleaves an orc's neck in a single brutal slice. The beast screams one last agony-filled cry. He slams down hard onto the skull-strewn ground. With a thunderous roar, he barrels straight into the horde. The terrified orcs are frozen in place, trembling and weeping like fear has them locked in chains. That cursed talisman finally bites, hitting its next victim right on target. He slices through yet another monster with effortless, godlike finesse. He whips around, laughing like he just crushed the whole battle and won. He keeps praising her like she's nothing but buffs, and she shuts it down, saying she won't help. She feels the crushing curse flood the air, like it's choking the whole room. It slams fear into their bones, freezes them in place, and crushes their defenses. Then it all came down to one brutal detail: his weapon. The dagger pulsed with a sinister, soul-chilling dark aura. It slapped on passive buffs that steamrolled defense and shrugged off every interference. She instantly knew it was the legendary class magic dagger. Suddenly, a blazing golden light surged over Gale, swallowing him in pure gold. Mora's spell finally surges through him and boosts every single stat to peak levels. He can't believe the sheer power of a top-rank mage. He dashes off like he's untouchable, and right away, the others look skeptical. Mora's breath catches in a sharp gasp as it all finally clicks and she realizes she'd messed up. The buff collapses and fades fast, snapping him back to normal. Still distracted, she let the mana drain away. He erupts in laughter, bragging that their combined power is unstoppable. He darts forward like a blur, wrapped in dark energy. He flashes a grin, itching for the next wave of foes to hit. A fresh pack of orcs and loons surged up in front of him. The young orclets unleash a furious roar that shakes the air. He can't stop wondering where the heck did these brand new enemies come from. Then he hurls even more cursed items into the chaos. Small skulls explode against the bodies of the workers. A crimson cursed energy surges in grabbing hold and refusing to let go. The whole crew gets slammed by the curse, swallowed whole in its dark grip. Their bodies lock up instantly, like time just froze them solid. They're completely frozen, like their bodies forgot how to move. He stares in awe at how his simple, slow curse is working. He tips his hat to Morris Buff, crediting him for that knockout power effect. Mora tells him, straight to his face, that he's got everything completely wrong. Her eyes pop wide as she realizes what he's about to do next. He crouches low, muscles tight, ready to slam the last one. He charges straight at the final towering orc leader and dares him to fall. A storm of dark, crackling energy coils around his dagger, and from the blade's tip, a shadowy claw claws its way into existence. A ghostly claw slashes down and rips into the massive creature. Moro glares as dark energy whirls around them like a storm about to explode. Dark energy shrouds the final monster, sealing it in crushing shadow. York shatters into nothing, and all that's left is a pile of skulls. Mora stared at what he just did, stunned that he actually triggered insta-kill. It's an ultra-rare power you can't even craft. Somehow it just exists, and that's the scary part. Gale doesn't even flinch while his own feet hit the ground. He just watches, face steady, like he's already made up his mind. Mora shot her gaze down at her totally unexpected battle partner. With a victorious grin stretched wide, he proclaims loud and proud that they've won. Mora nods along, but you can practically see the exhaustion crushing her from the inside. He snatches her up and spins her around in a full-on victory dance. Other passengers leaned toward the window and stared out from the wagon. They huddle side by side right in the middle of the carnage they unleashed. The grateful passengers bolt out the door just to thank them. That night, the stars blazed overhead like they were daring the world to watch. Gale finally admits the truth when it came down to battling head-on. Fear hit him hard. Moro freezes in shock, because what he's seeing is brutal and somehow even more efficient than he expected. She grilled him about why he'd spent so long dealing in cash. He shrugs and says he's just cursive, sir. Mora locks eyes on him, and her expression gives nothing away. She tells him, straight up, that Cash was a total idiot for letting him go. She leans in and goes, "No joke, he's got talent for absolutely everything." He swears it's not true, but she can read him like a book. She shoots him a grateful smile for the coffee, then heads straight to bed. Gale sits alone by the crackling fire, eyes locked on everyone else. The other travelers burst into laughter and trade stories like it's pure gold. He can't stop replaying Mora's kind words, and they hit him in the chest like a lifeline. A real heartfelt smile slips onto his lips. He can't stop wondering, could he really be talented? He finally admits it. He's never once seen himself that way. He knows this. There's no way he could have done it without her. But still, something inside him had snapped into a whole new gear. He can't forget it. He's always been stuck on the sidelines, watching from the edge. This time, he didn't just show up, he jumped straight into the fight. He never once joined their celebration. He can't stop chasing that insane rush. Beating a monster felt amazing. A tiny, joyful chuckle bursts from his lips. He stares up at the stars, convinced Mora's kindness is almost too good to be true. Morris falls into a deep, peaceful sleep, then props his bag under his head like a pillow. The wagon rattles along the dusty road, grinding forward through the choking haze. The driver perks up and blurts that they're almost there, destination right around the corner. A sharp jolt of a jab's gale bursts in, yanking him awake from sleep. He groans as he slowly drags himself out of sleep. He blurts out, "Did you make it?" And she nods, confirming they've arrived. They jump off the wagon onto solid ground. They snap their gaze forward, scanning the news site like it's the moment that could change everything. A shared smile bursts across both their faces, lighting them up instantly. Hand in hand, they stride straight for the city gates. They sprint straight for their target farm edge, the town waiting just ahead. The title page bursts in and slaps the series name right on screen. The wagon keeps grinding forward, wobbling and shuddering like it's fighting for every inch. The driver blurts that their destination is right there, and you can practically feel it getting closer. Moran jabs Gale awake, telling him to wake up right now. He groggily cracks his eyes open, still barely awake. Moro can't shake the feeling that they've already landed. Their boots thundered across the wooden floorboards. Gale is completely stunned by what he sees in front of him. Their shock melts away, and suddenly they're grinning from ear to ear, pure joy bursting out. They burst into a run, fueled by fresh electric excitement. They finally made it to Farm Edge. This wild city clings to terrace cliffs, stacked like it was carved straight out of the mountains. Cows chow down peacefully across endless pastures, grazing like the world's in a calm trance. Farmers crouch down and sweat over their crops below, tending them day by day. He kept staring in awe at the huge farmland stretching as far as the eye could see. She snaps around and grills Gale about his plans. He's gonna hawk those ogre materials for cold, hard cash. Mora leans in and tells them, "Let's hit the guild together." They burst up to the Farm Edge Adventurers Guild right on time. Mora's jaw drops as he realizes what he just chose for his quest. She pushes back, demanding why he's so dead serious about it. He grabs Mora and begs her to help him with the quest. This rank mission is brutally hard from the moment it starts. Mora is frozen with fear, absolutely terrified, and can barely bring herself to move. She fears those two support roles just won't be able to handle what's coming. Gale stays razor confident in his specialty. A bright, cheerful voice comes blasting up from below, like it's calling them into something fun. They freeze when she suddenly pops in out of nowhere. Mora can't stop staring, wondering how she slipped in so quietly. Gale finally admits it, he completely missed her. The elf receptionist stares them down like she's clocking every single detail. She glares up into the storm, eyes locked like she's daring the sky to hit her. Gale leans in and tells them, "We're from the capital." She's practically glowing with joy as she spots fresh new adventurers on the horizon. She claps her hands together, overcome with pure gratitude. The town was in trouble, real, non-stop trouble. Gale can't help but think her total sincerity is adorable. Mora shot him a disgusted glare that practically burned. She leans in and clears her throat sharply, like she's about to drop a bombshell. Mora tells them, "I'm nothing special, just a traveler passing through." She storms in and introduces herself as a support mage. The receptionist bursts into pure joy the second she hears it. She's thrilled to have a rear guard backing her up. She leans in and demands, "Gale, are you a thief?" He's the curse artificer's support crafted to turn horrors into weapons. She keeps saying that strange job title like it's stuck in her mouth. Gale admits it. Yeah, this reaction is totally normal. Gimli blurts out a quick apology for how she just reacted. Artificers almost never show up here. His one-of-a-kind class has her completely hooked, and she can't stop wondering what it's really all about. Mora's staring with pure annoyance, like she can't believe what she's seeing. He's desperate to get to know everything around him. She taps the map and confirms the underground cemetery quest is really happening. They hung on every word as she laid out the whole explanation. The catacombs have been left untouched for ages, like the world forgot they even existed. Liches have been wreaking havoc non-stop, and it's getting out of control fast. She shoots him a sharp question. Can you really do it? She can't believe he's got what it takes to pull off that task. More targets for her cutting, dismissive attitude. Gale just grins, like it's all nothing and he couldn't care less. Gimli growls under her breath as she warns him. Not a single rescue team is ever getting dispatched. He leaned in and demanded to know if she had any maps. He's fixated on one thing, snatching that map. She digs into his quest application and gets to work right away. She can't help but find that adventurer totally hilarious. She leans in and sincerely begs him to be careful. She jabs her foot down on his by accident, and his whole day jolts with it. She teases them non-stop, loving how close they've gotten. He grabs onto one final crucial detail before it slips away. She drops the bombshell she's the guildmaster. Her name is Gimli, hear it and you'll feel the trouble coming. Gale's totally flustered when the truth hits. He clutches those materials in his mind, like he's determined to prove he brought everything. He demanded an exchange, swapping them for cash. Mora stares at him and goes, "You're weirdly naive." His directness hits her like a shock, and her whole face turns hot with fluster. He leaned in and demanded, "So what do you mean by that?" Gale leans in and asks, "So you're coming with me, right?" He watches her say nothing, and that silence screams the truth. She claims he's the kind of guy who's always one rescue away. Gale is totally blown away, so stunned he can't even get a word out. Mora's cheeks flood with color as she shoots her gaze away from him. He admits that when she's around, his heart finally feels safe. She's totally flustered by his shameless audacity. She buries her face in her hands, like everything just shattered at once. He's practically buzzing with excitement, ready to dive headfirst into the quest. In his eyes, undead were nothing but usable materials. More size and a weird hobby that makes zero sense. Night crashes down over Farm Edge, swallowing the city in darkness. Gimli broods alone on the rooftop, staring into the night like it owes him answers. She can't stop thinking about the curse artificer, like the idea is burning a hole in her mind. She can't stop thinking about that one man. He isn't just an artificer, he's in a league of his own. The very next morning, right there at the inn, they dug into a scorching, filling breakfast like it was fuel for battle. Mora blurts out that he overslept. He tells her he's had the exact same thought about her. He catches the staring eyes of the townspeople on him. This city is crawling with danger, but the number of adventurers is almost criminally low. They've got to look totally out of place to the locals. A man leans in and tells them, "Don't worry, everything's going to be fine." They loom in front of a towering, intimidating building that feels like it's daring them to step closer. He's itching to slam the quest shut and be done with it fast. He watches as Mora struts ahead. Mora's bag is stuffed to the brim with anti-undead gear. Gale barks at her, calling her a total worrywart for how hard she's been prepping. He boldly declares that undead are his absolute specialty. He grins and tells her she'll ditch everything and run off with him. With a bright grin, he ushers them straight toward the pitch-black entrance. He's convinced he knows the exact way to go. They stride into a gigantic bowl-shaped graveyard amphitheater, half sunken like a nightmare arena. The catacombs are so massive they'll steal your breath the second you see them. Birds wheel way up high above the open-air tomb, screaming through the sky like they can smell trouble. Old graves crowd the ground, and skulls are scattered everywhere like they've been waiting for centuries. Gale can't stop staring at the morbid view like it's beautiful while Mora glares at it like it's disgusting. A cursed skeleton sprawls across the cold stone floor, desecrated and beyond saving. Mora couldn't stomach what she saw someone had desecrated it, and the horror hit her like a punch. Gale nonchalantly pokes at the bones, and the shock hits her like a jolt. He spots fresh, unmistakable footprints, trail marks that couldn't have been left by anyone else. Mora can't shake the feeling that this place used to be a dungeon. She won't back down. She's demanding that every single person protects their dignity. She closes her eyes and prays softly and respectfully for the dead. He clocks it right away. Her devout nature hits completely different from his. He spots a lifeless, undead skull crumpled on the ground. He snatches up the skull and thrusts it into her hands, like it's the next move in a terrifying game. The skull starts chattering like crazy in his hand, right out of nowhere. Morris lets out a brutal scream and smashes the skull to pieces. He challenges her on that earlier speech about dignity. She's fed up to the bone and she's ready to declare, loud and clear, that she's done. He fires off reassurances, trying to calm her nerves about those weak monsters. He freezes for a second, then finally blurts out what he really came for. He's set on going deeper because the right materials are waiting down there. He hands her a lantern, then slips away just like that, saying goodbye without looking back. He drops down with a grin, already daydreaming about those amazing materials. Mora gets left behind, and rage burns through him because his selfishness just cost everything. She leans over the edge and peers down the pitch-black corridor right after him. She hesitates for a split second, then forces herself to follow him straight into the dark. She darts her eyes around, nerves buzzing as she walks down. A chill slithers over her skin, like something dark just slipped in close. She yells at him to stop right there and wait up. Now they're boxed in by countless coffins, stacked as far as the eye can reach. She mutters through gritted teeth that she's desperate to get out right now. She's desperate for her bag, but the moment she reaches for it, he's already got it in his hands. Something unseen suddenly whips past her, like a shadow brushing her skin. She shrieks and launches herself onto a rushing gust, terror driving every move. She swears something brushed her skin, but he won't believe it for a second. Clinging to him like her life depended on it, she insists it wasn't her imagination. Tears of fear surged into her eyes. Gale's face instantly erupts in a blush from that painfully close, awkward contact. He tries to soothe her as she clings to him, refusing to let go. She clamps herself to his shoulder, trembling like she can't hold it together. That close contact hits Gale like a sudden electric shock. He points to the harmless thing that's been triggering her fear. A tiny bat zipped past them in a blur. She scrambles to save face, insisting straight up that she already knew. A real skeleton bursts up behind her. She shrieks straight into his ear, smashing his hearing wide open. He clamps both hands over his ears as more skeletons crawl out from the shadows. He pleads with her to rein it in and shut her mouth before the yelling tears everything apart. She panics on the spot, shrieking, "There's no way this can happen." The skeleton creeps nearer, and she jerks back in fear. Mora finally hit her limit. This is her official breaking point. Panic rips through her as she shoves Gale hard away from her. She screams at the skeleton, ordering it to stay back and not come any closer. With one savage swing, she smashes the lantern onto the ground. She swings that flaming lantern like it's a deadly weapon. She slams it down on the skeletons with brutal force. The undead erupted in roaring flames as the oil ignited around them. Gale can't stop staring at himself like, why am I burning alive? His hair literally bursts into flames, and he's shocked beyond belief. He scrambles to pat the flames out on his head before they can spread. He slams back onto the ground and rolls hard, trying to choke the flames out of himself. Her fiery rampage finally burns out, and the chaos at last comes to an end. He leans in and asks, "So are you finally a little calmer?" He demanded to know why she kept trailing him, even with fear gripping her heart. She pauses for a beat, then weighs her words before answering his heartfelt question. She finally admits she was terrified of him being alone. Gale's visibly shaken, her deep concern hits her like a punch to the heart. He leans in and tells her, "Don't worry about me." He grins at her and warmly thanks her for caring this much. He grabbed her attention and begged her to follow him deeper inside. He tells her, "If you're scared, just close your eyes." He shoots his hand out, begging her to grab on tight. Mora's cheeks flare red as she shyly accepts his offer, like she can barely breathe from the moment. Even Gale blushes just a little, and it hits him that he's embarrassed too. In the pitch-black dark, they stride ahead and clasp hands tight. He totally kills the vibe by blurting out a joke. The story slams us into a flashback of the capital city. The wolf pack barrels toward a blacksmith shop, ready to strike. The blacksmith is hammering away at his anvil, fully locked in and working non-stop. The desperate party scrambles to pawn off their battered old gear before it's too late. The blacksmith snaps, refusing to work because their tools are too dirty. They huddle in a cramped alley, shivering as the cold bites down. Luke scooped up a handful of low-ranked quest flyers. Cash couldn't care less about Luke's pathetic findings. Cash snarls that low-rank quests are beneath them. He tells everyone to chill out and face reality. He snaps it into focus, everyone's drained and running on empty. Luke shuts it down fast. He's sure that tough quest can't be done right now. Melissa insists they've got to rebuild their strength before anything else. Cash reluctantly caves in and agrees to their cautious plan. He fires off complaints about those bargain basement extermination requests. You stumble onto an A-rank quest to wipe out every last ogre. The ogre's memory haunts everyone, and pure terror freezes them in their tracks. The party brushes off that A-ranked quest flyer like it's not even worth their time. C-rank is basically the only door they've got left to walk through. They're sizing up a C-rank orc extermination job. Cash carelessly brushes off the C-rank threat. Luke's regret hits hard. He fell asleep outside on an empty stomach, and now he can't stop thinking about it. Norris pushes through the gloom and tries to snap a crushed Luke back into it. The rear guard stares at the vanguard, and doubt gnaws at him. Luke and Norris burst into a cynical laugh together. Norris always puts his own safety first, no matter what. They rush up to an abandoned church, the silence hitting like a punch. Luke leans over the church wall, scanning the area like he's hunting for the next move. He scans the desolate, overgrown graveyard, like something is watching back. Luke says there's an army of enemies right there, too many to count. About 20 skeletons creep in the shadows, just waiting to pounce. Cash scoffs like the number is laughable, utterly meaningless. Melissa nods, smiling like it's already over. She's convinced this fight's going to be a cakewalk. The vanguard locks in and gets ready to slam forward into battle. Cash snaps his sword up and roars out the plan. He unleashes his sacred light and crashes in with a savage attack. The skeletons stand there totally unbroken, cackling like they just won a battle. Melissa barrels in, twin blades blazing, ready to tear into whatever comes next. Melissa bursts onto the line, calling for magical backup from Norris. Norris starts chanting a fire spell, and the air feels like it's about to ignite. Luke drops off the wall in a sudden leap. He hammers the skeleton to pieces with a single punch. They picture a win so quick and clean it feels already done. Cash smirks, laying out their flawless game plan with unstoppable confidence. The rear guard nods and promises backup right when they're needed most. Cash and Melissa brace themselves in front of the gate. The clerical barrier on the gate finally drops away. A sleeping skeleton suddenly twitches and starts to wake up. The undead army slams awake after its long, blood-chilling sleep. Two warriors surge forward and slam into the chaos. Cash snarls a loud challenge at the skeletons. Melissa jeers at their foolish decision to brawl in broad daylight. They cackle, already imagining the sweet reward is basically theirs. Cash gets socked right in the face, full force, no mercy. Melissa gets clocked by a bony fist too. Skeletons unleash a brutal strike and both go flying. The rear guard stands there, watching the whole plan crash in real time. They're boxed in on all sides, days wasted, nowhere to run, pinned down on the ground. Skeletons tower over them, cackling like they're laughing at their every move. The skeletons slam into them again and again, beating them without mercy. Melissa curls into a tight ball, shielding her head from what's coming. Cash gets grabbed and smashed around as skeletons beat him down. Luke pushes Norris to unleash a spell. Norris tightens his grip, ready to blow his magic wide open. He digs in, throws his will behind the spell, and drives it forward with pure focus. He hurls Inferno Blast, just a speck of fire. Norris and Luke lock eyes on the result, stunned, speechless. A pathetic fireball sputters through the air and rockets straight for the enemy. It fizzles out right on that skull, harmless as a dud. That irritated skeleton bursts into a taunting cackle, laughing like it's already won. They back away in pure terror from the skeleton. The C-rank quest crashes into total failure. A sudden shift into full-on force mode. The very next day, they charge out to hunt down orcs. Melissa strides up with unstoppable confidence, volunteering to lead the attack. She rockets onto the orc and drives her blade straight into it. The crowd erupts, cheering her like she just won for real. Melissa stared down, utterly baffled, like she couldn't believe what she was seeing. Her sword is buried deep in its back, stuck there like a finished sentence. Her party members shout for her to move like they're trying to outrun the clock. York's huge hand slams down and clamps onto the wrist. It scoops her up like she weighs nothing at all. Bjork yanks her by the clothes, leaving her dangling there. She tears through the air with a desperate scream, begging for Cash to save her life. The York stares hit you with a creepy stare. It just struts off like nothing happened, completely brushing off everyone else. It dumps Melissa down and, like nothing happened, lets out a calm little oink. The party starts roasting Melissa after she gets rejected. Melissa screams as Cash slams into its back. Cash spots a crack in the defense and lunges for the attack. His sword snaps into a wild swing, only to bounce off the back like it's made of pure nothing. Cash is left totally speechless, stunned, and completely lost, like his brain can't catch up. A mere tiny scratch is all that remains of the impact. The orc's face twists, rage explodes in its expression. Cash can only manage a flimsy apology. That deer in your quest just faces another brutal humiliation. Total failure again. A few days later, right there at the Capitol Guild, the party is totally crushed, defeated, battered, and running on fumes. They snap at Gale, blaming him for every single failure that keeps piling up. They decided to hustle for cash and then go straight after Gale. They shrug and take an even easier goblin quest. Cash and Melissa stagger in, battered and bruised from a brutal fight. Norris and Luke are both left brutally injured. The guild receptionist snarls at their newest failure like it's a joke. Cash mutters under his breath, fully convinced it's a scam. A flashback hits the moment they first rolled into the village. They brag right to the village elder's face like they're untouchable. Cash finally admits this is his first goblin fight. Goblins on monstrous mounts slam into them, charging straight in for the kill. The goblins tore into them without mercy, beating them down again and again. The villagers had no choice but to grab their weapons and fight for their lives. A villager charges forward on horseback, driving the defense with pure grit. The battlefield erupted into total chaos, and the fight never let up. The whole village slams the door on them and refuses to cover the cost of their failure. She dares them to take a voluntary demotion. Cash snaps, furious, and demands an easier quest. She winds up and prepares to smack his insolent face. A brutal slap cracks the air, money erupts and spins everywhere. His party just freezes, staring at his unconscious body. A massive sunken necropolis suddenly surfaces, like the ocean is ripping open a long hidden secret. Two skeletons clatter and gossip through the shattered ruins. Gale stared at the gruesome scene, unable to look away. He stands there in the cemetery and suddenly feels hope glowing in the dark. Mora nervously tails him down the stairs. She feels someone nearby, but he's totally oblivious. She latches onto him with sudden, crushing force. He begged her to let go, not to cling to him. He feels it, something is starting to form right there nearby. A towering skeletal hand bursts out of nowhere, gripping a fresh pile of bones like a warning. A hulking bone golem surges up, towering and terrifying, like it's about to crush the world. It looms over the two adventurers like a monster about to strike. Mora shuts her eyes tight and begs right from the depths of her heart to open them. He shoots a warning it might be even scarier from here on out. He starts a smooth 3-second countdown, like he's setting the match before the spark. A tangled dispel seal suddenly forms right in front of him. The massive goal hits the floor and starts to crumble right before their eyes. Mora clenched her teeth, feeling the power surge through her. Her eyes pop wide with pure shock. They stand facing the golem's remains. He leans in and begs her to open her eyes. She leaned in and asked, "So you really cast a spell?" She's never once heard of something like that. He breaks down exactly what priests do. He straight up says it's not ideal. He sits there, scratching his head, trying to figure out the perfect way to explain it. He doesn't shove them away. He stops, listens, and lets what they say hit. He gives him one shot to finally make his voice heard. Bones and broken remains of a skeleton are scattered all over the floor. He clutches a skull in pieces, cradling it with trembling gentleness. Mora is completely stunned. His brain just can't wrap itself around what's happening. She leaned in and demanded to know what the hell he was talking about. He demanded to know what was keeping the undead moving. She nails the answer magic or grudges. It's her choice, and she gets it right. He grins and says, "Yeah," like it's the most exciting thing in the world. He breaks it down like, "See, it's extra true right here." He clocks it undead are there, and they hate purification with a burning passion. They're getting slammed with outrageously harsh scolding from the priests. He likens it to the scoldings he used to get as a kid. His words slam into Mora's mind, snapping a memory right into focus. She remembers the moment they tossed her aside just because she was a girl. A fist tightens with rage, clinging to a bitter memory like it's burning. A man leaned in and barked at her to stay out of it. Gale clocks her panic in an instant and fires off a question. He drops into a crouch and stares at her, worry burning in his eyes. She shrugs it off in a heartbeat, like it's nothing worth even thinking about. He lays out the spirit's simplest regrets. Grudges aren't some dark curse. They're just those quick, everyday moments that flare up and vanish. Mora finally clicks and his point starts to hit home. He proves his point with a sharp nod at the sarcophagus. The lid rips off in a violent burst, exploding upward in an instant. A uniformed skeleton lurches forward like it's tearing through the dark. Morris erupts in a brutal scream as a raging gale tears him down and he dies. She clocks exactly what kind of monster she's dealing with. A dangerous, dark skeleton knight crawls in like a threat you can feel in your bones. She fires a warning this isn't something meant for rear guards. He leans in and gasps, "I can't breathe." He lunges in and yanks at her, trying to break her grip and pull her away. He finally tears her off him. The knight creeps forward, closing the distance toward them step by step. It lifts its blade and chatters like a blade-hungry storm. Morris roars at the top of his lungs, screaming for it to stop. Gale calmly shoots up one finger, sharp and deliberate. He presses a dispel seal right onto the knight. The magical seal snaps to life on the spot, like it's been waiting for this exact moment. Nightfall slams down like a collapsing curtain. Mora stares, froze her face, locked in pure shock. An ethereal spirit slowly lifts itself out of the dark. A ghost of a young soldier drifts into view, like it's hunting for someone. The spirit spins in place, utterly lost, like it can't find its way back. Mor yanks Gale toward him, completely blindsided and totally lost. The spirit crumbles into shimmering motes of light, like its very soul is slipping away. 2 watches, then it disappears for good, like it never existed at all. Mora is left completely speechless by what just happened. He nods hard and says, "Got it, I understand exactly what's going on." She can't wrap her head around it. How does he already know the whole story? That night refused to say goodbye. That regret clung to him, heavy as a curse, refusing to let go. She demanded to know how he could possibly be so sure. He leans in and tells her it was just a hunch. His craftsmanship sharpens his senses into something special. The undead aren't hunting you, they're begging for empathy. His method is dead on, crafting perfection every single time. The priest's magic blasts the materials away, leaving nothing behind but gone. They press deeper into the catacombs, step after step. Mora locks eyes with him, and the intensity hits like a punch. He leaned in and asked her, "What's wrong?" She leans in and asks, "Do you really think this is easy?" He confirms it right there, without hesitation. His laid-back attitude drives her straight into a rage. She yanks him close and demands an apology, no excuses. He insists his route is a win-win for everyone. She's convinced his mindset is throwing everything off. They climb yet another brutal, pitch-black staircase, one step scraping into the dark. Side by side, they tread through the gloom, shadows swallowing every step. Gale blurts out, "We're here," as they finally roll up to their destination. They burst into a massive pillared hall. The very deepest part is shockingly lit up, like it's glowing from the inside. The catacombs roared to life as skeleton knights flooded in. Shambling ghouls' shooter teams rush in and form ranks together. Dark phantoms and Death Eaters lurked in the shadows, waiting to strike. Mora took one look around and realized the whole place was packed with blazing bright spirits. She insisted she was totally fine, but it sounded fake the second she said it. Gale paused, weighing every word like it could shatter her whole plan. That massive hall stretched out like an endless army of undead, crawling with cold, dead life. He let out a huge breath when he finally saw no liches at all. Mora couldn't wait. She urged them to turn back right now. A huge shadow crashed down and slammed their exit shut. The whole undead army snapped their heads around as one brutal mass. When that face crumpled, I knew everything was over for them. She peeked out, totally baffled by the sudden, eerie silence. The monsters aren't coming for them, they're just standing down. A sharp, wordless agreement sparked between them, and it screamed. Now, Mora yanked Gale into hiding before anyone could spot them. A shadowy, robed figure burst out of the passage like it had been hunting in the dark. Its crown was nothing but a skeletal grin, and it radiated pure menace. A towering arch-sorcerer strides into the hall like he owns the whole place. Just like that, the graveyard's master showed up again. That pyrofied arch-sorcerer, yeah, it was him in the flesh. Just its mere existence was enough to spark a full-blown calamity. A brand new voice burst in, yelling that they'd arrived perfectly just in time. The girl with glasses leaned in and said she was hunting for them. She shot him a question. Is it one of those disaster class monsters? The arch-sorcerer gave a sharp nod, like they were fully on board. Then she leaned in and asked, so did you go to church? Suddenly, the floor under him erupted in a violent blast. A fresh pit opened in the ground, and thick smoke surged up like it had just been born. That mysterious girl leaned in and flat out said she wasn't going anywhere either. She snatched them up and leapt straight into the hole. They crashed into the floor below the chamber in a tangled heap. More panic surged as the threat hovered right over his head. She tried to bolt, yanking Gale along with her. A sinister, suffocating miasma starts creeping across everything, swallowing the air in oppressive darkness. It spun around the spellbound undead like a storm of pure dread. The army suddenly snapped awake, fueled by brand new purpose. Mora begged to break free, but Gale stayed icy calm. He grunted through clenched teeth, straining to hoist a massive stone slab. He slammed it shut, locking their escape tunnel tight. Up above, the skeleton didn't even fall. It shattered and dissolved into a drifting mist. One more comes rushing in, then the form starts flickering out of existence. Then a third one just crumpled into nothingness. The whole undead army started to collapse, one shattered step at a time. A massive divine dispel seal roared across the ceiling, swallowing the air with power. Mora instantly clocked the high-level priest technique like it was written on the air. The intricate magical runes erupted in a brilliant glow, pulsing with raw power. She was totally stunned, like, how could he pull off creations like that? A wave of miasma shattered into nothingness in the blink of an eye. Gale and Mora hunker in their hiding spot, watching everything unfold. The spell flickered to life, unveiling the brief, trembling shapes of human souls. One after another, they shattered into glittering motes of light, like the universe just erased them in a blink. A calm, satisfied glow swept through the chamber, like peace had finally won. Crows erupted into a harsh chorus as they stepped outside. Mora swore she'd never come back, and somehow, Gale felt brand new. He stumbled onto a day trip so wild and unforgettable it basically blew his mind. Mora leaned in and told him, straight up, that he was blowing the whole feat way out of proportion. Gale couldn't help but wonder how insanely rare sorcerers like that really are. You know those creepy spirits love to linger in old noble tombs, don't you? He practically tackled his new materials bag and hugged it tight, like it was pure treasure. Moro fixed her eyes on him, like she was already piecing together his next move. She leaned in and demanded to know if he really loved cursed items. The camera zoomed in on one of his necklaces. He flashed his loot with a grin, bragging that it was absolutely cool. Mora couldn't bring himself to accept that aesthetic at all. He finally confessed that almost nobody could read or respect his style. Mora leaned in and grilled him about his old stall. He couldn't help but smile as memories of that girl who loved his designs flooded back. Mora looked totally unbothered, like the story didn't even hit her. He swore the world would catch up, and she shot that idea down hard. He swore he'd open his own shop and prove it to the world. Moro shot back to the moment the guild spotted him and came calling. The receptionist pointed them out the party, begging for help. Cash snapped, yelling at the slow-moving Gale. The receptionist leaned in and confirmed it. Yeah, that party was the real deal. She spills all the gritty details about the wolf pack's wild, hard-to-handle personalities. Gale's downtrodden past was laid bare to her, crystal clear. Mora instantly clocked the whole situation, like every detail clicked into place at once. She grabbed the job offer the moment the pay hit the table. The words crack through the air, and Gale shouts them out like a thunderclap. Mora yanked the memory of her own brutal dismissal right back to the surface. She shot Gale a sharp look right there, in the present. She couldn't forget the way his eyes screamed fear, all shrunk and cowering like he was trapped. But now his eyes blazed with hope. A warm, knowing smile blossomed across her lips. A voice shot the question, demanding to know what she meant by all that. She spun around and admitted it. Yeah, it was kind of fun. Spending time with Gale was a blast every single second. He teased her for crying, but she shot back, "No, I wasn't." He threw an apology her way, grin blazing as he watched her react. Mora didn't hold back. She admitted she was truly grateful for every single thing. She swept into the new town without breaking a sweat. If he ended up alone, things would have been brutally harder than he could have handled. It felt so right to finally not be alone. Laughing with someone felt like pure sunshine pouring straight into his heart. Gale genuinely thanked Mora for saving him with her help. His brutal honesty hit her like lightning, and her cheeks burned with a furious blush. She blurted out that his brutal honesty was making everything painfully awkward. She barely managed to whisper a soft, "Thank you." Gale was totally clueless, and she snapped at him, calling him dense like it was the truth. Mora demanded, "So how are we splitting this massive reward?" Gale figured they'd slice it down the middle, no one getting more. She kept insisting she was nothing but a burden, like everyone would be better off without her. She'd grab his stuff and help carry it, nothing more, nothing less. Mora couldn't stop thinking, how did I even carry all this much? He pulled out a cursed bracelet that supercharged his strength. He proudly bragged that it could rewrite the rules of warfare. Seriously, this has terrible taste written all over it. She leaned in and demanded, "Have you ever actually seen real artifacts?" He swore every single one of their designs was tacky and embarrassing. Most magical items were basically simple containers. Nothing fancy at first glance. They only dangled a few tiny upgrades of power. Artifacts that packed multiple effects weren't just rare finds, they were the real deal. He erupted in laughter at the idea that national treasures were tacky. His creations absolutely crushed it with mind-blowing performance. But his style was straight-up trash. He cared about one thing only, stacking countless effects until everything collided. His creativity made every artifact feel totally pointless. Mora stared at him, repeating his words like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. He could craft something for her in seconds, no sweat at all. She knew cursed items weren't just dangerous, they were pure power with a dark heartbeat. But the risk of getting cursed was terrifying. The price was brutal, and the side effects hit like a wrecking ball. What if a curse officer could seize control of it? What if the power stayed no curse attached, just pure freedom? A cold shiver ripped down his spine. She clutched that reward bag to her chest like it was pure gold. He could rattle the world so hard it felt like its foundations were about to crack. He was convinced his designs were absolutely flawless. A sly little smile sparked across her face like she already knew what would happen next. She could feel it in her bones. Gale's time would never truly arrive. She nodded along and fully backed up her own judgment. His style would slam the door on fame before it ever opened. Gale beamed and said they were right on the edge of it. Mora pushed the idea on them, tracked down a carriage. He flagged down a farmer's cart as it rolled by. Cursed Artificer Gale stepped forward and introduced himself with a presence that made the air feel heavier. She couldn't stop thinking he was one hell of an interesting guy. She could end up partying with him again. They burst into the guild that night. Gimli threw the Adventurers Guild doors open and greeted them like they'd finally arrived. She blinked, and just like that, they were already there. Gale shot back that it was exactly the opposite. He leaned in and begged her to judge the value of his prize haul. He even pulled out a special item just for the moment. She spotted the arch-sorcerer's jaw like it was calling her name. Gimli said, "See? Fine, I'll add 10. But Mora shot back, "Nope, I'm taking 30. This quest wasn't just risky, it was absolutely deadly. She could not wrap her head around the insult of a low offer. Mora stared the guild right in the face and demanded to know if its integrity was even real. Gimli swallowed his pride, apologized, and offered up 20 in return. Quests could only be survived if you prepped like your life depended on it. He couldn't help but think her kindness was straight from the heart. Gimli shattered their peaceful vibe in an instant. She cringed at her own inexperience, fully aware she still had a lot to learn. Moore nodded hard, fully backing that truth. She'd trusted a gravedigger big mistake, and it all went terribly wrong. He couldn't help but find her apology unbelievably adorable. He fought down the fierce urge to reach out and pat her. She offered to team up with him on patrol. Gimli couldn't hold back. He leaped straight into his arms, grinning like he'd just won the day. He remembered she was the Guildmaster, and it hit him like a sudden punch to the chest. He'd never heard praise this intense, like the kind that hits you in the chest. Mora snarled for her to get as far away from him as possible. It was finally time to kick off the appraisal. Moro and Gale stood there, gripping the moment, waiting for their pay to finally show up. Вона нахилилася і прямо запитала його, чи подобаються йому тварини. He snapped back hard, shutting down that sudden question before it could even land. She clocked just how crazy in love he was acting. She shrugged it off and decided it was fine anyway. She leaned in and asked what happened, why he was sulking out of nowhere. She leaned in and told everyone Gimli was about 100 years old. That news hit like a thunderclap, and everything changed in an instant. Gimli blurted out an apology when her hand slipped. After all that grinding, the quest reward finally snapped into place. But this wasn't the end more treasure waited for later. She couldn't stop herself from wondering whether she should reveal a woman's age. A booming voice called out, "Gimli-sama." She leaned in and demanded to know what was wrong. The guild slammed its doors for the night, sealing everyone in silence as the story paused. The latest news came straight from the capital city. They collided in her dim, flickering office, where the shadows felt like they were waiting too. She got word that an assassination just went down. Princess Carla clung to survival thanks to a mysterious special item. It wasn't one of the church's sacred relics. A mysterious artifact showed up out of nowhere, and it instantly hooked every curious part of me. Those assassins weren't just any killers they hid behind the mask of unknown military personnel. Maybe the Empire has a secret unit saved just for this. It might connect to the wish they've been protecting with their whole hearts. Gimli leaned in and demanded even more wild stories to hear. "That's everything for now," her subordinate blurted. She ordered a brand new investigation and wouldn't let the mystery rest. The subordinate snapped to attention and accepted the order. She sat alone and tore through every detail, leaving no clue unturned. The Empire zeroed in on the princess like a hunt about to snap shut. In the heart of the Empire, the capital trembled because a cursed artifact had just lit the fuse. That artifact sent a sudden jolt through her, like it was staring back at someone she'd never forget. Suddenly, the name Gale flashed in my head. She felt his power hit the moment he stepped in. His curses hit him, and somehow they didn't even faze him. He teamed up with a mage, and together, they smashed a deadly sorcerer. She's frozen in shock. He can twist curses like they're puppets in his hands. A curse artificer so unshakable, even the undead can't touch him. Gimli bursts out of the steamy shower, steam clinging to his skin. She clutches the memory of her cursed dark elf clan like it's still burning in her bones. Her clan is clinging to a cherished wish, one that's been soaked in pain for years. Her clan dropped to their knees before a shadowy throne. A younger Gimli once dropped to one knee among them. They're hunting for the Empire's demon lord heart before everything falls apart. As guildmaster, she's been hunting down clues like they're gold. When tensions ignited between nations, it turned into a rare golden chance. She leans in and tweaks the flame of her lamp until it burns just right. Then out of nowhere, a fierce gale blows in, like the universe just yanked the story in a new direction. She still remembers that calm, confident smile of his, like it was stamped into her mind. What if he forged that cursed artifact with his own hands? He's got to be one of the most fascinating people alive. The wolf pack strides into the royal capital church, ready to make noise. A priest steps in and tells them, "You're not cursed, stop believing that lie." The whole party freezes and nobody can even breathe, everything goes dead silent. Cash won't buy it. He's sure they're still filthy. He stormed in to shatter the curse everyone swore Gale had. He checks the signs and confirms the curse's traces are definitely there. It's a straight-up miracle somehow he survived it. They finally clock what their situation really means. This is the real, original power level they were born with. He was the kind of strong that never quit stronger than anyone could have imagined. A trembling fist clenches hard, refusing to accept the truth. He points the finger at the priest's lack of skill. And yeah, being just average isn't part of the deal for him, because he's too busy chasing something far bigger. He barks orders for them to hunt down Gale. They've got to hunt through the run-down back alleys. Luke finally snaps he's had enough. He's dead set on ditching this party. They sold every scrap of gear they had just to make the dispel happen. They're totally spent, and they can't scrape together a single place to sleep. Those back alleys. That's exactly where they belong. Cash snatches Luke by the hood, rage blazing in his eyes. Luke grits through the pain and tells him, "Let go." Luke says he's glad he never threw in the towel. He slaps Cash down toward the bulletin board. Cash whips his head around like, what? He shoots a glance at the board, like every answer is about to explode. He barrels past without slowing down, slamming Luke hard onto the ground. He yanks the notice right off the wall. He gapes at the paper, stunned beyond belief. The others stare, confused what in the world has he stumbled onto. Luke can't shake the feeling that Cash might be totally right. He swears their luck is finally about to flip for the better. Their luck finally flips and everything starts going their way. It's a wanted poster for Gale. That features list looks tacky as hell and screams, "Don't take this seriously." They throw a full-on celebration because Gale just got turned into a wanted man. They can spot his stupid face from a mile away. They start dreaming up a reward just for his head. They chase status, hunger for land, and glittering jewels like their whole world depends on it. This isn't just about money, it's about something way bigger. The informants are S-rank adventurers, top-tier killers who don't miss. They stuck by his side right up until just now, when it all changed. In the palace, the party erupts in loud, crude laughter. Luke rants that they're torching taxpayer money for nothing. They're demanding more of those insanely delicious cakes. Cash demands a fee for every second they keep him waiting. They start grilling the truth, are they? Really S-rank, or are they just pretending? Cash whips around, irritation blazing in his eyes. Huh? He spits insults at the tiny bureaucrats who sit there and watch him like they matter. The princess leans in and calls him Mr. Cash. He smirks and corrects her, demanding she say Cash-sama the right way. Vivian tells him, blunt and clear, only royalty is allowed to talk like that. Royalty hangs in the air like a living threat. A guard steps up and offers a formal apology for the delay. She strides in and introduces herself Carla de Gherkin. He smirks and dubs her the country's princess like he owns the title. His expression locks up, and then, out of nowhere, the shock hits like a lightning bolt. She shoots them a quick apology for making them wait. The princess sits there like royalty incarnate, radiating pure authority. The whole party drops to their knees in a breathless frenzy and panics all at once. Cash throws him a quick apology, then tells him, sit down. She taps her finger and the whole story kicks off. She leaned in and asked, do you know the man? The party shoots nervous, uneasy looks at each other like they're waiting for something to go terribly wrong. Their faces split into smug, confident grins that practically dared anyone to challenge them. They erupt in laughter and insist, yeah, of course we do. Vivian leaned in and demanded they spell out every detail of his features. Cash gives a super generic description. Vivian leans in and says, that description too overused, way too common for my taste. Melissa points out that he's got on a totally tacky jacket. The princess's eyes flare wide as recognition hits like lightning. She keeps pushing them, don't stop talking, keep going. Norris swears his style is so brutally tacky it leaves everyone wrecked. The princess snaps, that's not him. The party stares left everyone completely speechless. They're dead sure it can't be anybody else. Loop frantically shouts for her to stop. Just wait. He spills the bombshell Gale used to be one of their party back in the day. He flaunts the Dispel talismans like undeniable proof. They lean in and stare at the talismans, eyes wide with curiosity. Vivian flashes the undeniable evidence and dares you to deny it. He tossed the talismans in as a bonus. Carla snaps back that she didn't get a single one. Vivian whips around and calls Luke by name. Vivian interrogates Luke, demanding answers about Gale's items. Luke swears he's got more stuff from Gale. He cracks open his secret stash and reveals a chilling collection of grotesque, cursed trinkets. The party can't help but wonder, are these items cursed? Princess Carla suddenly gets hit with an intense, can't-ignore curiosity. Her eyes lit up with pure, real joy. She's totally hooked by their design, like she can't look away. She bursts out, insisting those grotesque things are actually wonderful. The wolf pack is left totally stunned, not a clue in sight. The princess burst into laughter, shaking with pure joy over the discovery. She declares with zero doubt that their tale has to be real. Vivian nods and says they'll get their reward. At the party, their eyes light up with pure, ravenous greed. Vivian squints at the princess's weird taste and can't stop questioning it. Carlos slams the cash stop button before he can even make it out the door. She slams a heavy bag of coins into his hands. It's not even the kind of payment you'd expect before a brand new mission. She has to thank him straight from the heart. She leans in and asks, do you get what I mean? Cash totally misreads what we're really trying to do. He vows his life to making sure her request gets finished. They throw a full-on celebration the second the mission paycheck drops. Cash realized finding Gale would be a breeze. Melissa barrels into the merchant districts to start her investigation. The others will tear through the guilds and hunt down every city exit. They can't stop asking what price do you pay when trouble gales start whipping the world apart. They scheme up their own brutal thank you. They're obsessed with the idea of torturing Gale. The princess stands there, watching them storm out of the palace gates. Vivian presses the princess, demanding to know why she made that choice. Carla bluntly admits she doesn't trust them at all. The poster one's sketch looks downright awful. They're going to watch how that S-rank party wrecks the battlefield with pure skill. A wolf pack is under non-stop surveillance, and everyone's waiting for the next move. They're standing shoulder to shoulder in a grand palace hallway, staring down the next move. Vivian thrusts the poster into the princess's hands. The poster makes it crystal clear the target is Gale. A ghostly skull lights up from inside the ring, glowing like it's alive. She's dying to dig into who he really is. Out in the middle of nowhere, in a quiet rural town, Farm edges agricultural city where every street feels alive with harvest power. Gale lets out one massive sneeze out of nowhere, and it hits like a thunderclap. He can't help but wonder, are those rumors flying around already? He halts his work mid-task, staring off like he's trying to crack the next big clue. He shoves that thought aside and barrels on. He lets out a smug chuckle, then dives right back into his work. He kicks off his plan by polishing a lich's ribs until they gleam. The eerie bones supercharge the dark attribute. He grinds it all together with dark bone powder. He pours a liquid into the mixture. That's how its physical attack gets a serious power boost. A Thunder Wisp core slaps light resistance on you like armor. His brand new masterpiece is finally finished and it's about to blow everyone's mind. The cursed greatsword known as the Divider because one strike splits destinies. Mora Berson screamed that the noise was way too much. She rants that his dark room reeks so bad it makes her gag. She didn't come just for one reason. She has a whole other reason to be here. Mora raises his eyes to the brand new day, and the world feels like it's about to explode. It's his very first day selling here, and the stakes feel wild. She steps in and offers to ride along with him to his stall. Gale's eyes widen in shock as she hears the offer. She stands by the window, eyes locked on his return. With a grin, he hawks his cursed wares like they're pure treasure. A bread baker hawks fresh, steaming loaves right around the corner. Then another vendor steps in and serves up piping hot, freshly cooked rice. Mora glares with total disgust, like she can't stand to watch a second longer. He's been perfectly lined up to rake in success, and it's working out great. The market street is packed to the brim, with people swarming everywhere. The food stalls are raking in cash non-stop. People swarm them like crazy. He hustles to sell to farmers, but every deal crashes hard. They dig in and savor every bite of that mouth-watering meal. He decides to slam in a brand new sales pitch. He thrusts bone chopsticks into their hands. They recoil in disgust and snap their refusal fast. He tries to pawn his sword off, and the thing freaks a guy out so hard he bolts. Mora slips up behind him and asks, straight up, what he's doing. He steps in and offers to sell her the sword. She lets out a raw scream, begging him to stop. She refuses it with everything she's got. He rips into her for disrespecting his product. She rips into him, screaming over his awful sales tactics. She rips into him with a full-on lecture on supply and demand. He finally clicks with what she's been trying to say. He's mulling over exactly what farmers might be struggling for. He starts rattling off ideas for how to get rid of those pests for good. He snaps his hands together like a light bulb just went off. He leans in with wild excitement and urges everyone to try those cursed headbands. Mora snaps, grabs him by the arm, and drags him off before he can even blink. The whole town huddles together and swears his stall is downright creepy. They suddenly show up at Gimli's house out of nowhere. Mora snaps that she can't even stomach his idiocy. Gale mutters that she's definitely not his partner. He slumps in silence, stubbornly defending every inch of his masterpiece. Both women glare, totally fed up. Gimli tells him to start thinking of others and be more considerate. She leaned in and demanded, "Who in this place would actually buy something like that?" Gale leans back and quietly weighs her question in her mind. He throws out the idea that it's basically just interior decoration. Gimli snaps to it. His case is way more serious than he ever expected. She demanded to know why he picked that spot. He couldn't believe it. What he did was illegal. She kept getting hit with more demands. Everyone urgently wanted to know why she'd be reported in the first place. Gimli grins and teases Mora about the rough partner she's stuck with. Gimli leans in and demands, "So how much did you pay the guild, Gale? You forked over a crazy 1 gold coin just to grab that stall." Mora's jaw drops at the insanely high price. Gimli wastes no time. He bluntly calls him out and tells him he's been scammed. The guild just mentioned it. Yeah, it was a non-stop packed zone. Gale finally snaps. Farmers don't want his cursed items at all. He crumples to the ground in despair as his business plan detonates in ruins. He's clinging to the hope that adventurers might still want in. But that's not the kind of fix that lasts. It's temporary, not real. Gimli pushes him to move his stall to a new spot. Gale says someone warned him the best spots were already packed. Gimli flashes a sly grin and asks, "So you're telling me you only showed up looking whole?" She spotted tons of open, empty space stretching out in front of her as she headed over. Gimli lets out a chuckle, and it hits him. At last, he finally gets the whole picture. The city is packed with guilds of every kind, all branching out like a living web. Gale snaps into action and races out to set everything right. Gimli shot him a knowing grin, like he was silently cheering him on. He's storming straight for the legendary Blacksmith's Guild. The whole crew snaps into action, setting off with a brand new mission burning in their hearts. Mora wears a determined look that screams she's not backing down. Gimli hammers home the truth. They've got to lock down a brand new location. They push through the guild's main doors and step into the heart of the building. Gale figures out the farm edge's wild secret power dynamic. Here, the merchant guild barely has a say. They realize the only way to win the blacksmith over is to earn his trust the hard way. The artisan's hometown know-how doesn't just help, they wield terrifying power. Gimli leans in and asks the guild leaders, "So got any souvenirs for us?" Gale's eyes flare as a ruthless idea sparks to life on his face. He throws his chest out and proudly unveils one of his cursed necklaces. A dark, ominous surge of energy detonates in the air. He swings the divider around like it's irresistible, confidence blazing as he shows it off. Mora slams his head down, ordering him to bury it out of sight. Mora can't forget how Gimli crafted those gifts just right, and still there in her mind like a promise. She flat out refuses help and insists on carrying the souvenirs herself. She points and shows the terror-soaked stairs leading back from the blacksmiths. Gimli leans out from behind the nearest curtain, eyes sharp and ready to strike. They burst into the guild's colossal, roaring workshop, and the noise hits them like a wave. Craftsmen are pounding glowing hot iron like they're forging fate itself. Others pore over the plans with laser focus, then neatly sort every last material like they're gearing up for something huge. The forge's blistering heat hits like a punch, smashing straight through everything. Gimli leans in and says, "This ain't an office, it's basically a workshop." A frantic worker yanks them aside, barking at them to get out of the way fast. Gale's flustered out of her mind, and she has no clue what to do next. Gimli promises, "If you call us right, we've got you." Mora and Gale lock eyes, both of them silently freaking out. Mora clears her throat, ready to burst out and call. She tries to say, "Excuse me," but the crowd swallows it in a roar of noise. Gimli grabs her attention and orders her to speak way louder, like, "Right now, no holding back." She inhales hard, like she's about to unleash the move for real, and shows the technique. Sharon screams with an insane, earth-shaking roar. A blast of sound slams into Gale and Mora, knocking them flying off their feet. His thunderous shout blasts through the whole workshop. Gimli's roar slams through the air with power so earth-shattering it feels like the world is cracking open. Stone pillars nearby splinter and crack as the sonic pressure hammers the air. A brand new figure barges in, and right away he snaps that the noise is driving him insane. A young dwarf screams at them, calling them out as unbelievably stupid. Gale and Mora snap their heads around there, staring them in the face. Is a dwarf girl they never saw coming. The dwarf Shirena and the elf Gimli start trading sharp insults like it's a full-on duel. Gale clocked the age-old feud between the elves and the dwarves like it was written in the air. Mora's stomach drops. She can't shake the feeling she's picked the wrong person to mess with. Gimli snaps that she'll back her up properly. No shortcuts, no excuses. Meet Shirna the Guildmaster, pure muscle and pure dominance. Gale and Shirena lock eyes and shake hands like this is the start of something big. He runs his fingers over the calluses and scars, and you can tell this is a real artisan, no fake, no shortcuts. Her powerful arms scream years of hard-earned forging skill. Mora yells his name and snaps his focus instantly. Sharon shot him a piercing look, like she could see straight through him. Gale spots someone who feels just like her, a kindred spirit in human form. She can feel how insanely skilled he's gotten, like his power is radiating off him. They lock eyes and sit in quiet mutual respect, like two storms agreeing without a single word. Gimli can't help it. He starts wondering why they're just locked on him like that. They both jerk back in panic, cheeks burning, and instantly start denying it. Mora and Gimli just stare ahead, their faces flat with zero impression. They jump straight into the main topic. Gimli steps forward and, right on the spot, introduces Gale as the new kid fresh out of the capital. Sharon waves him off like it's nothing, saying he can set up anywhere he wants. She snaps that they're swamped with work, so there's no way she'll be bothered. She weighs the chaos an unauthorized stall could unleash. She praises him, saying he handled everything with honor. She swears they've got no plans to take over the town. Unlike the capital, They live and breathe a culture of fixing things, always repairing, always rebuilding. This philosophy turned her into the guild's very face. She exhales a heavy, exhausted sigh that drags on like the weight of the whole world. She sits right there and confirms without a doubt that his name is Gale. She leans in and warns him, "Don't trust that suspicious elf dangers written all over him." Take Gimli's words with a grain of salt. Gimli huffs and pouts, grumbling that Sharana is being downright cruel. Sharon nods and agrees to write him a permission letter. Their wild celebration gets slashed short the second Cherna shows up. She smirks and tells him, "Trust me, this isn't that simple." She demands proof of sincerity first. They crack open the scene and reveal a bottle of dangerously potent fire liquor burning with power. Mora hands Sharina the bottle like it's the ultimate gift. Gael grins and blurts that he grabbed a souvenir too. Mora desperately lunges to physically pin him down. He's dead sure she'll fall head over heels for his masterpiece, the Divider. He's fuming, yelling that she keeps smashing him so hard it feels unbearable. Sharon's face snaps into pure jaw-dropping shock. Gale beamed as he unveiled his latest masterpiece. Sharon snatched it in a flash and shoved it under scrutiny. He grinned and asked if she was Shirana. She shrieked at the top of her lungs, demanding to know what the heck it was. Gimli's clueless side. At the worst possible moment, pure technical chaos. Sword in hand, Sharonelle stared in pure disbelief. I clocked it right away. Only an expert could spot that kind of quality. This blade wasn't just any sword. It felt like destiny with a handle. On his knees, Gale just froze in pure, shocked silence. He leaned in and demanded to know if she could really do it. They threw a wild celebration, because everything between them finally clicked. She leaned in and told him to drop the stiff formality. You shower her with praise for her rock-solid professional expertise. Her validation hit him so hard it moved him. Gale started crying, and this time it was happiness, pure, overwhelming joy. Mora watched their bond like it was hiding a secret, and she didn't trust it for a second. Sharon unleashed the source swing. Her sharp gaze raked over its shape, like she could dissect it with just one look. Mora stared on with a deadpan expression that gave away nothing. She coughed, and Gale's worry snapped into full panic. Gimli smirked and teased that more of it was finally starting to make sense. Sharon leaned in and asked, "Does that dust mess with you?" Two artisans were totally clueless. Gale stared into the master's eye, and nothing about her felt casual about it. She stared at those insane base materials and couldn't believe what she was seeing. She laid out its incredible enchantments, one mind-blowing feature at a time. Gale smirked and flat-out nailed it. She was right. She couldn't believe how light it felt in her hands. More was coming, and the next moment was about to hit like a thunderclap. Gale had already decided she was dying to try it out. Sharon flat-out declared, "I have to equip it." A sinister, cursed energy started twisting through the air like it had a mind of its own. She warned me that it feeds on life like it drains every last drop. She looked at it and swore it was the perfect weapon. Gale nodded like, "Yeah, this is perfect for solo adventures," and you could practically feel the freedom calling. He proudly bragged about all its other resistances. Sharing appraised revealed its real-world magic and practical power. Gale hesitated, fingers trembling, as the big reveal waited right around the corner. She shot him a question, demanding to know exactly what he'd just said. He leaned in and asked, "So you really mean it?" "Yeah, that's cool." Sharon's face went pale as his question hit her like a punch. Dark tendrils burst out of the shadows and snatched her hands in a vice-like grip. She shrieked, demanding to know what on earth was going on. She sobbed that she couldn't bear to let go. He leaned in and asked, "Come on, don't you have any sense of style?" Panic erupted everywhere the moment Shirana started walking back her praise. Gimli burst into laughter while total chaos tore through everything. Gimli couldn't help but think that giving credit out was the perfect way to show off how good he really was. He was nothing short of legendary for a curse artificer. She couldn't shake the feeling this strange man was hiding something, and she needed answers. She shot the scene a look and instantly shook her head like, "Nope, I can't believe this." Gale yanked out a talisman and snapped the curse out of existence in an instant. Cherna finally tore free from its clutches. A sword and a bottle of liquor sat side by side on the table. She let out a heavy sigh, calling the whole experience nothing but terrible. Moore rushed in to apologize, admitting she had warned him. Sharon slicked her hands with liquor until they were disinfected. Gale snapped that he should have admitted it was cursed. She bragged that she was centered, but somehow she still acted reckless. Gimli tried to cool the whole argument down before it exploded. Sharon instantly regretted picking up that ugly sword. She snapped and slammed his souvenir offer down in total fury. She snapped that it was all over, everything was ruined, no saving it. She snapped at him, furious at how clueless he was. She flat out banned him from running a stall. She feared his cursed tools would wreck the town. But then, boom. An idea struck her mind like a lightning bolt. She admitted she wasn't as cold-hearted as everyone thought. She leaned in and asked just how badly he was craving the chance to stall. Mora suddenly drove an elbow straight into his ribs, sharp and brutal. Sure, it's basically a stamp of approval for his wildly eccentric but honestly jaw-dropping skills. Sharon listened to Mora's heartfelt plea like it was something that could change everything. She owned up to her part in everything, no excuses. She demanded to see his true colors first. Mora was totally blindsided, and she didn't see it coming for even a second. Sharon made it crystal clear she wasn't going to beg for money. All she wanted was to make sure he finally heard her request. She leaned in and said, "I only need one thing." She hunted for monsters, and she had to wipe out the soul mind. It's a brutal hellscape step in, and adventurers disappear without a trace. The quest hit like a brick. This was on the hardest difficulty at She leaned in and asked, "You up for this challenge?" Gale and Mora watched, panic creeping in as they worried. The story slammed into the majestic royal palace, and everything suddenly felt bigger. Princess Carla uncovered a truth so shocking it left her breathless. She couldn't even process it. This was the Empire, and it felt unreal. Vivian snapped that the assassins had finally broken and spilled everything. The attack didn't just happen, it tore straight into a brutal succession battle. The first prince made it clear he wanted her gone for good. A brutal fight for the throne erupted the moment the power struggle began. The princess leaned in and demanded to know exactly how she'd ended up tangled in all of this. Vivian leaned in and reminded her this was an arranged marriage, no room to pretend otherwise. Carla's eyes snapped wide. She had totally forgotten. She cringed and confessed she'd totally blanked on it. She flat out refused to play along with the arrangement. Her feelings didn't matter one bit. State business came first. Vivian laid bare the first prince's real motive. That marriage wasn't love at all. It felt like a political blade aimed straight at his power. Even if they caught him red-handed, he wouldn't face a single punishment. This chaos was exactly what he craved. Vivian lays bare how the Empire's shattered politics keep falling apart plan by plan, fracture by fracture. Carla's terrified the first prince will strike again. The attendant leans in and snaps. The kingdom is too weak to stand. Her teacup erupts with a violent splash from the sheer force of her rage. She snaps with pure fury, "We're canceling this engagement." A nearby attendant stares on, face hard with disapproval. Vivian leans in and listens with a heavy, knowing look, like she already understands what's coming. Carla hurls her tiara onto the table in a burst of pure rage. She collapses on her bed, drowning in pure, bitter frustration. Vivian sighs this promise between nations can't be broken. Tears spill down her face, but Carla digs in her heels and refuses no backing down. She grips her ring tight because now it's a whole new promise she's fighting to keep. The new party bursts into the Inanaki mine, and the whole place feels like it's about to explode. Gale beams and proudly introduces himself as a full-on curse officer. Mora steps in and declares, "I'm the support mage." Gimli raised her hand and firmly pushed herself out of the fight, declaring she wasn't the one for combat. Gale watches their party's lopsided lineup and can't stop questioning if it'll even hold together. Sharon cuts in and tells them to waste no time, just get it done. Mora fires off a reminder that there's still total newbies in this town. Gimli smirks and warns that every failure will crank the difficulty even higher. Mora snaps to the truth this quest has leveled up to a whole new rank. Gale can't stop worrying that it'll spike even higher again. Gimli's cackling because he can feel it closing in on S rank. Her mood flips in a heartbeat, and she blurts that she's missing the adventurers. Gale and Mora lock eyes, and this worried, all-knowing look passes between them like, "We're in trouble." They all lock onto the mine's dark doorway, like something terrifying is waiting just inside. A chilling wind screams through the deep tunnel, like something sinister is creeping closer. Mora's instincts scream that an absolutely terrifying monster is lurking somewhere nearby. Sharon's ripping into them, furious that they're getting spooked that easily. She's begging for it to end already. She just wants everything settled fast. Mora rants that the quest reward is a joke so cheap it's insulting. That pay was so awful, nobody in their right mind would touch the job. Moro demands a vanguard first, no moving forward until one leads the way. She fires back that they'll never take on those unknown monsters by themselves. She commits one bold step forward and everything changes. She steps forward with fearless confidence and claims herself as the party's vanguard. Gale and Mora are left utterly speechless, staring in total disbelief. Shirana bristles at their stunned, wide-eyed reactions. And honestly, it's wild how unusual this whole situation really is. Gimli shoots her plan with instant, blazing approval. Sharon swears she's way stronger than anyone would ever guess. She crack flexes her muscles like it's a joke, daring everyone to believe it. Mora fidgets and blurts, "Can I really pull this off?" The unbalanced party charges straight for the mine's entrance. Mora still thinks they've got a real shot at winning. Her only hope is tied to Gale's mysterious artifacts. The party rallies together, roaring with excitement as they're finally ready to kick off the quest. Gimli shoves them onward, waving goodbye as their deadly journey kicks off. They crash down into the mine, slipping past creaking wooden machinery. Gale lifts a lantern and throws light ahead, cutting a path through the dark. A weird, bone-chilling howling cuts through the air from somewhere down below. Mora instantly regrets showing up as Sharuna swoops in, steadying her with reassuring words. Nervous as a leaf, she blurts out, "Is Sharina really telling the truth?" Sharina insists that eerie noise is nothing but the wind. Gale breaks it down, unveiling the mine's real name, Dog's Howling. Sharon steps in and claims the perfectly lined-up stones as hers. Gale and Mora tip their heads up together, eyes wide with shared awe. She hoists a massive chunk of iron ore up in front of your face. And buried deep inside, the mine isn't just rich. It's packed with lead and rare mithril, too. She calls it a powerhouse mined, great, vital, and impossible to ignore. Gale and Mora stare in stunned silence as they witness the incredible sight. They stand at the edge of a massive, glittering cavern, like they're staring straight into a treasure-charged nightmare. They both light up, agreeing that it's absolutely breathtaking. Sharon stands tall and proudly explains exactly why her people chose to settle here. She pleaded with them to stay calm and not get spooked. Mora tries to steady her nerves, praying she's wrong about the undead. She yelps out of nowhere, instantly sensing something lurking just out of sight. She snaps awake in the dark passage and whips her head around, staring for whatever's out there. A lone drop of moisture plummets into the dark, like the night just got struck. A hideous stone face rips open in front of them, screaming at the top of its cursed lungs. Mora gasps, and horror slams across her face like a cruel mask. She jabs her finger and shouts that the undead are out there. Sharon can't help but wonder why Gale is grinning like she's just won the lottery. A hard, unmoving stone face of a man fills the screen. Gale waves it off like it's nothing more than a harmless stone statue. The insanely detailed figure is locked in place, trembling in pure terror. The more I widen my view, the more it hits me something is seriously wrong. A young blacksmith just can't believe the statue's insane craftsmanship. Gale can't help but admit it, this craftsmanship is absolutely unreal. They pinched at two clueless artisans like it was all one big mistake. Yeah, right? She lunges forward with pure determination. She stares forward with a grim, unshakable look that says trouble is coming. She barges through a rickety wooden doorway, the whole thing creaking like it might give way any second. Sharonut barrels in, trying to cut off their geeky debate mid-sentence. Mora yanks them along by force, barking that they better look. Sharon and Gale stare forward, utterly lost and still reeling in confusion. Their faces flip in an instant, pure, jaw-dropping shock. They come face to face with a massive horde of stone people, packed shoulder to shoulder like a living army. Their petrified faces twist into pure, gut-churning terror. The blacksmith stares at the statues and realizes every single one is utterly different. Mora feels an eerie, unnatural presence creeping in so ominous it chills her to the bone. He just stares, his own face trapped in pure, unblinking shock. They locked eyes and her smile vanished. Grimness hit her face hard. Gale spots a face he swears he's seen before, right there in the crowd. He leans in and demands Sharuna explain everything. She jabs a finger at a bald man she knows exactly who he is. Then she spots another familiar adventurer and goes, "Wait you, these are the lost adventurers from Farm Edge, gone from the map and hunted by legend." They finally figured it out. The people who disappeared had been turned to stone. The whole party's faces go pale when they uncover what they never wanted to find. A silent army of petrified adventurers stood there, stone still. Mora stared at the horrifying, lifelike detail, and it hit her like a nightmare made real. A voice couldn't stop asking what kind of place this was. She shrieked, demanding to know how in the world this could possibly be real. A fist snapped tight as a grim realization hit like a punch. Gale could feel it in his bones. This had to be the work of monsters. A fierce seriousness hardened his face, and he looked ready to take on anything. Mora spun in place, eyes stretched wide with pure terror. Her eyes snapped to the dark, panicking with every second that passed. Sharon snapped at them to stay on high alert. Mora clocked that they were right by the exit. Gale spotted a few of the fallen adventurers, and his stomach dropped when he realized who they were. Sharon took position at the front and then covered the side too. Gale leaned in and told Mora, "This is bad." She had a bad feeling it was either a basilisk or a gorgon with teeth, but Gale's nose caught a whiff straight from the chicken coop. He spotted feathers strewn everywhere around him. The clues all screamed the same nightmare verdict. A monstrous beak rips out of the shadows and lunges straight at them. Gale spotted their enemy right then and there, a cockatrice. The earth cracked wide open as its colossal weight slammed down. A grotesque creature, half chicken, half snake, slithered into view. A disaster-level monster slammed into the scene, unleashing deadly powers that could wipe everything out. Moro stared as the beast thundered ahead, barreling straight for him. The brilliant creature didn't just jump them, it set the perfect ambush and struck with surgical precision. Gale blared a warning to his companions, and everyone had to snap to attention. He barked at Mora to sprint to the rear. They snapped into a perfect high-speed switch and slammed the moment into place. The creature let out a bone-chilling screech, then tensed up like it was about to strike. Gale sprinted straight at the monster by himself, no backup in sight. The cockatrice shot forward in a blur, snapping at him with its deadly strike. Get ready, because this small enchanted dart is about to hit like a lightning strike. From beneath him, a massive snake tail rockets upward in a brutal lunge. He hurled the dart with razor-sharp precision. The tiny projectile slammed right into its target. Cursed energy surged out, blasting from the dart that was embedded inside. The monster stopped dead, jaw hanging wide open like it couldn't believe what it was seeing. He smirked, already clocking it as the easiest shot on the board. Sharon's eyes went wide as the darts hit with deadly accuracy. Gale shoved her forward, yelling for her to strike right now. It looked like nothing, just a throwaway enchanted dart. He warned that the paralysis wouldn't last for long. Sharon gave a firm nod, eyes blazing with determination. The earth split open beneath the sheer force of her power. She lunged ahead and swung that massive hammer like it was meant to crush the world. Panic tightened her gaze, zeroing in like a blade. She shot forward at breakneck speed, so fast it looked like time itself couldn't keep up. She soared up into the sky like gravity had just let go. Mora Watcher unleashes a scorching 5-hit combo. Moro leaned in and warned her this wasn't over yet. Panic slammed across her face like a full body shock. The snake's tail shot up from underneath, aiming straight for the attack. Mora shot back instantly. Got it, I understand. She slammed a strength-boosting spell onto Sharon, and the power surged into her like lightning. Sharon's muscles bulge as raw, brand-new power surges through her. She roared like a storm, and raw power surged through her veins. The moment I started explaining, the spell's power flickered out fast. Sharon stood her ground and declared, "Enough is enough." She strained with all her might, prying those massive jaws wide with shaking hands. She groaned, muscles screaming as she pushed through pure, brutal effort. She swore she'd prove her strength to them all. She'd forge proof that a blacksmith's strength is unstoppable. She tore the monster's head clean off, too. Dark blood erupted in a brutal spray from the fatal wound. She dropped hard to the ground just as the beast crumbled and fell out of sight behind her. She wheezed from exhaustion, but she still won victory burned in her chest. She slammed the final word, declaring total victory like it was already written. They all shook on it one wrong move and it would have been over. Gale's lingering dart found them in the nick of time, and that's how they got saved. They grilled him, desperate to find out what that cursed object really was. Gale swore up and down it was totally normal. He confessed he'd made it with ashes stolen from a ghost. This deadly combo froze them in place and still shoved straight through their defenses. They were totally freaked out by this ghost. Like, what in the world was it doing there? He pointed out his own skeleton, dressed in a black cloak. Their faces started to crack with nerves, and the fear just kept climbing higher. Gale held up the lantern and swore there was a scythe inside. They screamed that the Grim Reaper had come for them. A demigod-level tragedy, straight-up disaster. Gale brushed it off like it was nothing. Mora shot him a look that screamed, "Yeah, I'm not impressed." If you gave them that confident thumbs up. Mora leaned in and demanded, "What did you do to a demigod?" He grinned and proudly announced that he'd made a new item. His revelation left her completely stunned, like her words had vanished into thin air. They stared at it in shock. His item was forged from divine materials. They warned Sharona to be careful next time, or else. An adventurer lives by one rule: don't ever get careless. Mora snapped that Sharona looked like her life was slipping away. She insisted that anyone would eventually drop their guard. Suddenly, it hit her like lightning. She just realized something terrifying. Every last one of them stared at the defeated monster, stunned by what they'd just survived. Gale leaned in and demanded what this meant for their quest. They'd locked in the AA rank inside Anarchy Mine. The three of them burst into joy, practically bouncing off the ground. Gale snapped and said, "We're reporting to Gimli right now." He leaned in and demanded, "So, can we use the mine now?" That mysterious monster wasn't just any beast. It was a cockatrice, straight out of a nightmare. Gale finally felt like a real adventurer, like the story was choosing them. He swung around mid-step to call out to Mora, the arresting one. Mora can't help wondering, could that cockatrice actually be edible? Gale doesn't give a damn about anything else. She only craves the subjugation. Sharon snaps at them, "Idiots," and warns them it's intensely poisonous. At first glance, it's just a chicken, but one bite and you realize it's toxic. Mora blurts, "Why was it even in that mine?" Gale stops mid-thought, weighing her question like it's got teeth. He can't stop thinking it must have mistaken the mine for a coop. A foul, rotten egg stench claws through the air, like something absolutely disgusting just blew in. Gale snapped, "Mora, what did you just step on?" She drops her gaze and stares at the shattered pieces. Gale drops to one knee and starts inspecting the pieces up close. He clenches the fragments in his hands, squinting until he's sure those are eggshells. Mora squints at the eggshell, and it looks tiny, like it's almost too small to be real. Gale's mind races as she starts to connect the dots and realizes what this could unleash. He demanded they remember what a chicken coop was built for. Horror hits his face like a sudden spotlight, and you can practically see the realization dawn. Mora's eyes snap open, and the horror hits like a punch to the gut. She leans in and tells him, "It's where they drop their eggs." They clock it instantly. Sharon is frozen, strapped in by pure, absolute panic. She shrieks that this is an absolute nightmare of a situation. A thin, high-pitched chirp slices through the darkness, echoing like a warning no one wanted to hear. Sharon tilts her head up, and the chirps multiply all around them. A baby cockatrice bursts into the world with its beak wide open. Yet another fresh monster wriggles across the ground, still barely hatched. A brutal horde of monsters erupts from the cracks, surging into the world like a nightmare breaking free. The party is frozen in pure shaking terror. They got blindsided and stumbled straight into the creature's nesting ground. Gale is clinging to hope they'll finally see them as real parents. Those drooling monsters completely demolish his theory. His cheerful smile snaps onto his face and instantly turns stone cold. He finally clocks his mistake as they close the distance. Mora locks in and confirms it. Those eyes aren't just there, they're built like predators. Screaming erupts as all three spin around and bolt for their lives. Their frantic flight slams straight into a dead end. A dead hush hangs over this mine, abandoned, sealed shut, and left to rot in silence. Sharon cuts in, saying they've got no choice left but to throw down and fight. A screaming swarm of hungry hatchlings barrels forward, snapping and racing for their next meal. Sharon rockets ahead, her massive hammer poised for impact. The hammer slams into the monster's skull, and the impact hits like thunder. The crushing punch detonates through the cavern, blasting out shockwaves that rattle everything in its path. She bragged that her hammer could smash solid rock to dust, but her brutal strikes are landing with zero results. More than that, Sharon is told to hang on just a little longer. She realizes this fight is way more brutal than the very first one. The babies are absolutely gigantic compared to adults, and there are hundreds of them. They somehow inherited the snake's wild, unstoppable baby-making powers. Their parents' hunger and ferocity don't just fade, they get passed down like a ruthless curse. They're nothing but mindless babies, locked onto their prey like it's the only thing that matters. They've got zero restraint, no discretion at all, just pure reckless impulse. Sharona is getting swamped. Their numbers are too overwhelming to fight off. She stands her ground and dares them to come at her. The second she says it, regret crashes in like her own words are closing in on her. Moore declares that her support is fully ready to jump in. She blasts out her all-abilities enhanced spell, unleashing everything she's got. Her palm slams down on the glowing magical seal. Sharon's agility surges like someone flipped a switch, and it's obvious in an instant. She bellows, and a fresh wave of power crashes through her. Mora will unleash magic into her, supercharging her abilities, but she realizes the progress is crawling way too slow. She trained for speed and precision, praying that one clean strike would be all it took. Now the moment is here. This is the last desperate push. No backing out. With that sharp, fearless leap, she's already certain she'll win. She turns into a full-blown tornado of destruction, smashing them into the ground. With those boosted abilities, she's basically untouchable, like nothing can stop her. But the sheer swarm of them is flat-out mind-boggling. The endless tide of monsters surges forward again and again, like it'll never stop. Their stamina is crumbling by the second, and their willpower is slipping fast. Sharon clenched her teeth as her breaking point rushed toward her. Gale finally snaps and admits he's running on empty, too. Mora collapses in a slump, her magical power drained dry. She begged Gale, heart pounding, for a cursed tool, anything to break the nightmare. His debuffs bounce off these simple-minded creatures like they mean nothing. He breaks it down like this: curses aren't magic out of nowhere. They're learned reflexes your body snaps into. Those baby creatures are so dumb they can't even be affected. This time, none of his tools mattered. Everything he brought was dead weight. Mora's eyes widen in terror. His curses won't even so much as work. The hungry horde keeps plowing forward, crushing everything in its path. The party is wiped out, utterly crushed and drowning in it. Sharona, bruised and battered to the bone, knows they can't survive on luck. They need a new plan, fast. Mora demands an item they can use on their own body. Gale yanks out a few decorative treasures he'd been saving away. It's a cursed headband stitched together so crude it looks like it shouldn't even exist. Next up, a bird-shaped mask made of pure darkness. The third one. A demonic horn of pure lament. Its wail rings like a cursed ornament. He shrugs off their impact, claiming it's all just for show. He's like, yeah, they don't just help you get insane defensive power and healing buffs that restore you fast. Sharon straight up says this is exactly what they've been needing. Mora slams up a defensive wall, buying them every last second they need. Sharonud snaps at Gale. Equip me with the items right now. He grips a grotesque stitched headband in his hand. A sudden close-up shows its rough, crumbly pores like it's barely even holding together. He recoiled in disgust and blurted out loud that the thing was gross. Gale slips it on her and orders, hold on, just be patient. Dark energy whips and curls as the horn locks into place. Sharon's exhaustion evaporates in an instant, and she's left staring in pure shock. With the wall holding steady, he slams forward the next item. The mask of darkness snaps into place, and suddenly you can see through the night, while poison loses all power. Sharon snaps the mask on, shouting that she can finally see. Mora leans in and screams that the defensive wall is seconds away from shattering. Gale raises the horn, and when it blares to life, immense strength floods his body. Mora's eyes blow wide with pure shock and gut-punch terror. Sharona, tell me why you're so lost. What's going on in your head, huh? With Gale's artifacts in hand, Sharon's full armor is finally forged complete. Gale can't help it. He proudly fires off, so is my bizarre creation cool or what? He shared one mind-blowing secret, a crazy 5-time strength boost. She can feel an overwhelming surge of power coursing through her fingertips. Mora's defensive magical wall snaps apart out of nowhere, exploding into scattered fragments. A screaming horde of baby cockatrices surges forward without mercy. Mora screams that their defenses have been shattered, leaving them exposed. She snapped a warning to Sharon because monsters were creeping up from behind, ready to strike. A massive hammer crashes through the air, and it all blurs into pure incoming disaster. The hammer slams down with a brutal, bone-rattling impact. Sharon slams in one brutal, mighty strike and wipes the monster out. Gale and Mora stare at the jaw-dropping spectacle, frozen in pure shock. The impact hits, and the entire mind starts to rattle and tremble. Dropping it in the notes, he highlights that insane power, no extra buffs needed. She lets out a wild roar, giddy with power, like nothing in the world can touch her. She erupts into a maniacal laugh, completely swept up in the wild, head-spinning thrill of battle. She declares that a brand new, earth-shattering power has just been born. She rips the mask off her newest move, Infinite Reversal Slash, and unleashes it like a blade from the void. She keeps erupting with that wild, unhinged laughter while the fight rages around her. Her eyes blaze with battle euphoria, pure joy lighting up her whole face. Mora leans in and asks, "Do these items have a dangerous component?" Gale breaks down how the cursed artifacts combination effect works, piece by piece. Mora clocks it instantly. Sharon has slipped into a full-blown runner's high. The last baby cockatrice rears up in front of her, screeching like it's about to tear the world apart. Up's about to swing for the last finishing blow. She's bent over, gasping for breath, finally letting the fight go quiet. A thick, dark sludge drips off the cursive equipment, slow and nasty, like it's alive. Gale raises her talisman, and every curse in the air crumbles away. They traded stretching tips and finally exhaled once the equipment was off. She says it'd be absolutely humiliating to come back looking like that. Gale's heart sinks because after all that work, creation has turned up as nothing more than secondhand. She's bragging that the thing she wore is so premium it practically screams worth it. She crumples to the ground as her whole body erupts in pure, unbearable agony. Gale snaps that the poison is now tearing through her body. Mora spots the truth fast. Almost nobody would dare put on cursed items willingly. But the relics strong enough to wipe out entire hordes are beyond measure. Gale tells them to hit the pause button and rest until the pain finally calms down. After that brutal, long fight, the whole group is absolutely drained, like every last drop of energy got ripped away. They drop down onto the mine's rocky, jagged ground, barely steady underfoot. A tight close-up zooms in and reveals the mine's stone wall, chipped and gritty like it's been through hell. Sharna sprawls on the ground, utterly wrecked and drained to the bone. Mora bursts with pride and praises Sharon's jaw-dropping battle performance. Just like that, her magic got sucked dry, every last bit was gone. Gale rips open his bag, then grimaces as he spots his supplies running dangerously low. Sharon boldly declares that this time, no doubt, she's got it covered for sure. Mora keeps going and says they've locked down the Inanaki mine for good. Gale adds, "This quest isn't just hard, it's ranked AA." They all burst out that the quest is finally over, done, finished, complete. They agree because if they'd known, they never would have shown up. Gale freezes mid-breath, and it hits him. Everything clicks in one shocking realization. He stares at the cockatrice nest, demanding to know what it's all even for. He can't shake that weird, unsettling feeling he had earlier. Heavy footsteps slam through the cavern, echoing like thunder in every corner. He still remembers spotting cracked eggshells scattered across the ground. A colossal shadow monster rips out of the darkness like it's been waiting for you. The creature erupts with an earth-shaking, rage-soaked screech that rattles everything around it. A massive new cockatrice towers over the battered, exhausted party. Cherna watches in grim silence, battered to the bone. Gale breaks it down first. One was a hen. He points at the sharp, deadly talons like they're the real threat. Mora finally realizes the horde was nothing more than chicks. Gale yells that the new guy's a rooster. Sharona goes wide-eyed and stunned. She can't believe it's a guy. Gale spots it instantly. This one's way bigger than the first. A hulking rooster barrels toward a tiny party like it's on the hunt. Morris lets out a full-throated scream. There's no way a third round can happen. Sharon clenched her fist, determination blazing like a TCE. She explodes in a furious roar. "Darn it!" Mora snaps at them both. "Get it together, right now." Rage is burning in the opponent's eyes. Its nest just got smashed, and the invasion has started. A tight close-up zeroes in on the hen's head after it's been slaughtered. Baby cockatrices' corpses are strewn across the ground, dead and broken everywhere. The rooster's eyes bulge, and pure, unshakable rage burns straight through him. Sharina snaps that the creature is bold enough to rage. She hisses at the rooster, calling it a fucking chicken. The rooster blasts out a huge, billowing cloud of white mist like it's commanding the air itself. Gale is hit with a bone-deep chill from that eerie mist. He feels that terrifying danger closing in and screams out a warning at the top of his lungs. Sharona shoots the rooster a bold warning, "Don't you dare underestimate me." Gale blasts out a scream, begging Sharona to drop down right now. He lunges at her, shoving her out of the way with brute force. White mist floods the cavern floor, swallowing everything in a cold, ghostly wave. As they slam into the ground, Sharona blurts, "What's going on?" She snaps to the truth. This is the legendary petrification breath. The rooster keeps blasting that deadly white mist into the air. Every single thing the mist brushes turns to solid stone before your eyes. That's exactly how every other adventurer got wiped out. The rooster glares with pure venom, readying itself for the next strike. Gale blasts out, "The second wave is coming." More notes. Each breath snaps in a tiny range like it can't reach far. She spots it, their escape route has been shut tight, locked down with no way out. Gale and Sharina scramble to pull the monster's attention away. Mora knows she has to smash through somehow. She strains with everything she's got, but her magic can't crack the wall. Gale and Sharon sprint back toward Mora in full-on panic. Mora's eyes go wide as they yank back in full panic, retreating in the blink of an eye. She demanded to know why they'd been trapped so brutally. Their path gets slammed shut when the hen's petrified tail hardens right in front of them. Sharna, Mora, and Gale unleash bone-chilling screams as pure terror takes over. The rooster's brutal strike blasts them flying through the air. They slam hard into the cavern floor, shaking the whole place. The massive cockatrice rumbles out a deep, low growl. Gale finally realizes their situation is way worse than they thought. Mora just ran out of stones for the wall. Gale tells her, "The shield's right here, grab it." Mora leans in and asks, "So you mean Sharon?" The rooster snarls and starts charging up a petrifying breath that'll freeze you in your tracks. Mora frantically scratches out a desperate final plan before time runs out. Sharina plants herself in front of her two friends, ready to take the hit and block anything that comes their way. She orders them to dive into the darkness of her shadow. Gale snaps, demanding to know what she means. The rooster blasts a deadly petrifying mist that freezes everything in its path. Making a vow means she'll carry her duty all the way through. No excuses. Gale belts out his name in sheer panic, screaming it like it'll save him. He plants his hand on her shoulder. Sharon admits. Straight to the point, she could never bring herself to hate Gale. Mora bursts into tears, terrified that she might lose everything. Sharon had one final thing to get off her chest, just one last question. She begged them to guard the guild like it was their own life. She's praying Gimli goes all in and gives it her absolute best. She regrets not telling him face to face. As Gale twists the stone, she shoots her hand out, reaching for whatever's about to happen. A cursed seal starts to form overhead, cracking the air with dark power. Petrification shatters, ripping away as it tears his body free. Her eye is revealed unsealed, untouched by the stone, blazing like it never belonged there. Her hand drops back to her side, limp and powerless. Sharon stares at Gale, totally baffled. Her hand snaps back to 100 normal. Two women leaned in and demanded, "How in the world did you pull that off?" He grins and gleefully breaks down how the dispel works for everybody to understand. Sharena and Mora are totally stunned. No words can even leave their mouths. Gale likens it to a Gorgon's gaze. He suddenly figures out that animal-type monsters don't just attack, they can sling curses too. Sharon steps up and appoints her brand-new discovery herself. She orders them to stare at the cockatrice. The monster's breathing comes in shaky bursts, and you can see the exhaustion hit it hard. Moore swings into action and declares the tide has finally turned. She's got just enough magic left to unleash one final game-changing upgrade. She's about to unleash a strength spell on Sharina. Their whole scheme hinges on one move. Sharina bursts in and attacks. Then Gale hammers in the final blow. Gale and Sharon sprint at the enemy side by side, charging forward as one. The monster whips its serpent tail forward and lunges to strike. Sharon strides in without a shred of fear to meet the serpent head-on. She fires off a crushing blacksmith's charge, and it hits like pure power. The impacts slam so hard they rip a shockwave straight through the air. She drives the serpent's head into the dirt, pinning it there for good. Sharina taunts the monster over its botched ambush, laughing like it's already over. She taunts it, gloating as its breath gets ripped away. Gale sprints along the serpent's petrified back. Mora screams at Gale to pull out everything he's got. Gale's eyes burned with pure, unshakable determination. He slips into position right behind the rooster. He taunts the beast, daring it to wake up. He's going to put it down for good forever, in one cold, final blow. He unleashes his full arsenal of curses, and the air around him screams with power. He slams open a massive clearance sale for cursed items. He unleashes his ultimate attack right in the enemy's face, point blank, no mercy. The cockatrice gets hit head-on as the assault crashes down on it. The monster's crushed beneath a mountain of skulls. It staggers on, battered and bleeding, but still not out of the fight. It's stuffed with a weird, ticking mystery inside. Gale screams at that chicken bastard. He says it so they can hold off on fishing for later. The cockatrice finally crumpled to the ground, completely crushed. Its body crumbles down, dissolving into a scattered pile of items. Skulls and cursed tools are scattered everywhere on the ground. The aftermath is a disgusting, bubbling nightmare. Mora leans in and demands, "So you really used up everything?" Gale finally admits he had zero clue what would even work. Mora is absolutely horrified by how reckless he is. A tiny object gets launched into the air like it's about to cause something big. Moro slams the warning down, "This is it, the world's about to end." Gale spots a tiny cuckoo clock ticking away. A cold, ominous ticking starts up, like the world is counting down to something bad. Sharina tells Gale, "I warned you, don't hold back." Gil admits he might have just pushed it way too far. A shadowy dark energy starts curling around the clock, like it's seconds away from exploding. It erupts in a colossal, earth-shaking explosion that lights everything up. Gale gets blasted backwards, slamming through the air like a cannon just went off. Morris erupts, shouting that Gale is an absolute idiot. The mine churns with choking smoke and thick, ugly sludge. Mora fights to survive as nasty, muddy water chokes her from all sides. Sharonis spits out a mouthful of mud and yells that it reeks. She leaned in and demanded, "Tell me Mora is still alive, right?" Mora is furious, her cloak is completely wrecked, and she can't stop complaining. Sharon snaps, "Where's Gale?" The cavern's ceiling suddenly starts to rumble with scary, steady power. Horror hits them as they finally understand what's happening. They stumble on Gale passed out, hanging upside down like the fight just knocked him out cold. Gale snaps awake and blurts, "Why is everything shaking?" He spots the cave and starting to crumble in real time. Mori screams at everyone to bolt right now and get out. Rocks start crashing down from the ceiling like the room is collapsing. A terrified young adventurer snaps his head up, like something just unleashed the nightmare above him. The trio charges across a wooden bridge at full speed. A colossal boulder barrels down toward the adventurers, roaring straight at them. The mine tunnel shuts down hard behind them, sealing their escape with a final, crushing collapse. The ground splits apart under a brutal wave of pressure. The mine's collapse rips through the land, leaving the whole landscape battered and scarred. Mora and Gale collapse into their seats, drained to the bone but finally breathing easy. A rock tumbles down and smacks both of them on the head, straight up comically. Sharon unleashes a full-blown fury on Gale, screaming at him for blowing up the mine. The mine entrance has collapsed into a jagged wall of rubble, blocking every way through. Gale shoots back that, sure, the quest might have been brutal, but it still got finished. Mora demands they get the proper reward they've earned for every ounce of effort. When someone brings up the reward, Sharon's face twists with pure rage. She rockets toward Gale, demanding payment for every last damage she claims he caused. Gale throws up a fight, insisting he risked his own life to shield them. Sharon snaps at them, ragingly calling them mining explosion criminals. She grieves her ruined nerve, the kind that just got her hammer taken. "What a day," she shrieks in pure boiling frustration. Just a little ways off, that wooden fence still stands solid, unbroken, and watching the whole scene. A trembling hand claws up from the dirt right beside it. In a cloak, the girl wheezes and coughs like she can't breathe, and the whole time she swears she just barely escaped death. She locks eyes with Gale and realizes she's witnessing an absurdly rare curse artificer. She still got caught in the blast, even with the distance that was supposed to keep her safe. Seeing what he could do was a good thing. From the cliff's edge, she stares down at the bickering trio, like she can't believe they're still at it. She stares at the cursed items, thinking they're going to perform like real artifacts. The drained crew slumps right in the rubble, staring at the wreckage of their own hard-won victory. The very next day, they storm back to the ruined mine. A young adventurer is locked in place, petrified, trapped in stone before he can even move. Gale hunkers down and gets ready to launch a Dispel Curse ability spell. The stone shell splinters and drops off the man's face like it never belonged there. Penelope lets out a heart-shattering scream. Her beloved Charlie's name tearing through the air. He's frozen in shock when he sees her. She came hunting for him. Mora pushes them harder, demanding they keep on the mission and rescue the rest. The reunited couple clings to each other, tears streaming as they vow right there that they're getting married. Gale beams at them with a warm, happy smile. He hands the couple a cursed talisman as a gift. Mora and Penelope snapped at him for the inappropriate gift. The young couple gapes in pure disbelief at the bizarre thing in front of them. They lock in an embrace, and pure relief and joy flood through them like they just survived the impossible. The action snaps right over to the town of Farmech. Gimli lights up the Adventurers Guild with a big, cheerful welcome that makes everyone feel right at home. Sharon storms in, and her foul mood instantly turns the whole atmosphere ice cold. A stool screeches across the wooden floor, grinding out a harsh, jarring sound. Sharon dropped into a chair at the counter, her annoyance blasting out in every second. She snaps that the guild is totally deserted, like everyone vanished without a trace. Gimli smirks and goes, "You looking for a fight, huh?" Sharing out drops one of Gale's darts onto the counter like it's the start of something dangerous. Gimli leans in and demands what's wrong with a simple dart, like it's the start of something way bigger. She yanks out a loop and holds it up for a closer look. Her eyes fly wide with pure, jaw-dropping shock at what she just sees. Shocked to her core, she snapped at Shurna. "What in the world is this?" She slams her claim down. It's the real deal, no prank, no joke, just a genuine artifact. She can't even process it. Gale is literally handing them over like it's nothing. A massive, curious grin spreads across Gimli's face, like he just stumbled onto something huge. She blurts out that she heard it, and he reveals he's an adventurer straight from the capital. He was apparently part of an S-rank party, the kind that terrifies monsters and legends alike. Sharon stared back with sharp skepticism, totally unimpressed. Gimli grinned, and the dwarf's reaction had him laughing under his breath. She lets out a sharp click of her tongue, clearly pissed off about the whole subject. She can't shake the feeling that someone like that wouldn't show up here for nothing. She bursts in with the news. Every last petrified adventurer is back to normal. Even the church threw in the towel, whispering it was nothing but a curse. Gimli's eyes snap shut in anger the moment someone brings up a curse. She propped her head in her hand and drifted deep into thought. Gimli finally admits the truth. Her own hand got petrified, but now it's cured. A flashback hits, and there's Gale and the others hauling the rescue to safety. The survivors finally crash into the church's clinic and rest their battered bodies. Sharana tells them the church is on high alert because Gale's power is a danger they can't ignore. Gimli pauses, staring into the unknown, and really thinks about what his power is meant to do. She shoots back that he really did use his Dispel Curse skill. Sharon's voice trembles as she nervously swears that he really did. Gimli leans in and asks Shurna if she's caught feelings for him. She flashes back to the moment he clocked the petrification instantly and knew it was a curse. He healed every single soul without a single drop of medicine or a shred of holy rites. Sharon drops her gaze, locking in on her next move. She grips her head, panicking as she scrambles for her next move. She leans in and asks, "So you're just regular adventurers?" Gimli grins, because he's one step away from leveling up. His rank up moment is coming fast. Sharon snaps back at Gimli, slinging insults like Vixen and Tanuki at her. Gimli grins and leans in, demanding to know what Chapernet really wants. Two heavyweight guildmasters step into the arena and stare each other down. Sharena blasts the news she snagged Gale and officially welcomed her into her guild. Gimli clicks his tongue and says, "No rule forbids that, so go ahead." She grins, clearly impressed by Sharon's masterstroke. Sharon flashed a smug smirk, dead sure her choice was the right one. A quiet, instant understanding snaps into place between them. He spins it in his hands, then strides out of the guild hall like he's got nowhere else to be. She, under her breath, tears into her rival, calling her nothing but a total nuisance. Right in the back of his mind, Gil suddenly unleashes a gigantic sneeze. Mora, gagging on the dust, shoots him a disgusted look and tells him to turn away. Gale blurts out that Sharena's rough around the edges like nobody else. Mora's got pure optimism blazing in their chest, locked in on the profit they're about to rake in. She labels him a hero and then, without blinking, a mind-collapsing villain. Miners hustle through the rubble, digging like their lives depend on it to clear the collapsed tunnel. Mora leans in and demands, "So you really joined the Blacksmith Guild?" He swings the two guild tags around his neck and shows them to her. Moro's jaw drops. This guild is so exclusive, it feels impossible. She leaned in and demanded, "So what kind of job are you making him do?" She can't stop wondering if the world is finally catching up to his real talents. He keeps getting slammed with criticism, and he's furious about it. He went straight to work trying to craft some inside decorations for them. He proudly shows off his bone-white vase like a prized treasure. Mora recoils in horror at his own grotesque sense of design. More questions, Gale's non-stop, all-day grind for the skull vase. Gale beams with pride as he unveils his masterpiece. making the wild, one-of-a-kind design the real showstopper. Mora suddenly realizes it's not just valuable, it's the kind of power every magic user would kill to have. Gale can't believe her own buzz, but she digs in and insists. Mana recovery is a razor-edge ordeal for any mage, where one mistake can tip everything into chaos. She dives into grindy potions and endless meditation, forcing herself through the slow, painstaking route. The very thought of dozing near that grotesque vase makes her heart slam with terror. Overwhelmed, she crumples to the ground, gasping that it's just impossible to accept. Sharon storms in, and the first thing she does is demand answers about the chaos erupting between Gale and Mora. Gale leans in and tells Sharina that Mora's calm, shattered rage hits her hard. Sharon glares at the skull vase like it's the worst thing she's ever seen. She tells him, "Sell it, and I'll banish you for good." She shoves him and blurts out, "I meant useful, not grotesque." Sharon grips him and shoves the cockatrice's head right into his hands. She tells him to grab it as a reward. She demands he slice the reward fairly with Mora. She flashes a teasing grin and warns him, playfully, "Don't you dare fall in love." She snaps back to it. He's still got her reward money, and she wants it paid. Mora snaps with furious rage, refusing to share payment in the face of his demand. Sharon claims she's deep in the work, restoring the mine with her own hands. She makes him a promise she'll help him hunt down the perfect stall spot. Her face shifts in a heartbeat, something new is coming, and she's about to show it. Gale stares, totally thrown off, as his sudden seriousness hits like a switch flipping. She drags him straight to a giant, shadowy object under a cover, like she's about to unveil a secret that'll blow his mind. With a wicked grin, she cracks the secret open and starts to reveal it. Gale freezes in shock, blurting out, "What is that thing?" It's the giant organ that fuels the cockatrice's breath. She swears it's the very thing causing the petrification. Gale instantly spots the truth. This organ isn't just powerful, it's cursed. He lays out, step by step, how he shattered the curse gripping Sharena. Sharena hints that he must have used that rare material to make his masterpiece. That valuable monster organ gleams like it's brimming with untapped power. Gale finally clocks just how insanely valuable that thing is like. Real money value, huge. Sharon doesn't hesitate. She hands it to him and tells him to take the material. But she slams her foot down, stopping him mid-step. Gale's gut screams that her intentions are about to go seriously wrong. She flashes him a wicked, fang-bearing smile that screams, "I've already planned this." Her eyes flare with a brilliant plan. "I've got it." She leans in with a confident grin and declares, "I'm going to teach you." She's going to show him how supply and demand really work. Word of Gale's enchantments tore across the world and even reached far-off empires. We step into the Empire's central underground treasure vault. Inside the Imperial Palace, Prince Burial is absolutely seething with rage. Lisette swears she didn't fail that mission. She claims the whole thing went the way it was supposed to. The prince yanks her face into his palm with brutal force. He snaps that she's dressing up failure with brazen excuses. Burial snaps, furious, and questions whether she's been underestimating him. She's not just any boss. She runs an assassination guild like a weapon with a heartbeat. Terrified out of her wits, she blurts a shaky, stammered apology. He shoves her away and spits, "You're a fool." He scoffs at her failure, even though she'd been so confident just moments ago. He roars that he truly believed she'd be skilled. Her failure hits like a punch to the gut. He refuses to accept it, no matter what. The prince swings open the gate and reveals a whole new chamber beyond. Lisette let out a tiny scream of pure fear. Inside, there's this cold, bare room, just one lone chest sitting there, daring someone to open it. She starts cracking open the Empire's most wicked artifact. Inside, the Demon King's grotesque heart beats like a nightmare you can't escape. The artifact traps the Demon King's very essence, like a dark secret locked behind ancient power. A chilling miasma spills out of that cursed object, clawing at the air like it wants to get inside your lungs. The prince leans in and declares that your heart doesn't just beat, it feasts, and it feeds on lives. He's over the moon like this long-awaited meal is finally feeding his soul. He spits cruel words at her, saying it wants nothing but useless scum. The prince's stare tightened with pure malicious intent. He shoves her head down toward the cursed heart. He leans in and demands to know if she truly understands why they're here. She stammers out that she has no idea why. Her pulsing heart is thrust right up to her face. Burial erupts into a manic laugh, like the answer is so painfully obvious it practically screams, Nobody in their right mind would walk into that dangerous room unless they were looking to get wrecked. Miasma claws away their strength, sealing the deal so their meeting stays dead private. He taunts him like even a single touch could get you killed. She pleads for him to stop, yet he barrels right through anyway. The prince just stares ahead, looking completely unimpressed, like he can't be bothered. He finally slams the chest shut, sealing the lid with a violent clang. He yanks her up by the hair, and pain slices across her face. He finally releases her and promises, "I'll forgive you." He barked, "Spill everything right now." She snaps her head up and promises to spill every single detail to him, no questions, just the whole story. Everything went perfectly right up until the final, last second. She leans in and says their whole target was Princess Carla. The princess swatted away every single attack like it was nothing at all. Rage boiling in his veins, the prince storms over and kicks his stool aside. He can't wrap his head around it. This powerless princess just sent them packing. She had an artifact that made instant death hit like nothing at all. The prince freezes the moment he hears about this insane power. Lisette slams her hand down and insists, no matter what you think, that it's the unbelievable truth. It's the one reason their attacks keep slamming into a brick wall and failing. An unknown artifact has crashed straight into the enemy's grasp. This kind of intel can make or break a nation's safety. He realizes his network is bleeding signals somewhere. There's a leak, and it's getting worse. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's just one artifact. Rage boils in him because his position feels like it could collapse any second. He refuses to let his half-brother marry the princess. That marriage would have lit a fire under his weaker rival. Lisette cuts him off mid-rant and drops even more info. She's got the real story on where those artifacts came from. The artifact was snatched from a young man in a blink. A young man was sprinting through the crowd, setting up his humble little market stall as he went. In a loud capital tavern, adventurers lean in and trade rumors about where Gale disappeared. Melissa tells Cash to lower his voice right now. Melissa throws out a terrifying rumor that's already spreading like wildfire. Cash can't stop wondering what that rumor is really about. He rudely snaps his fingers and drags the waitress over. She strides up to their table with unsettling calm, like she's already won. Cash barges in with obnoxious swagger and demands a barrel of ale right now. Melissa grabs the mic and talks about an architect, like it's about to change everything. That lone rearguard fought them off one by one until every last one was down. Cash can't stand the idea of Vanguard serving any real purpose, and the question burns in his mind. Luke doesn't budge. He demands every last detail. He lunges to attack a man with a cursive dagger. Luke says it sounds just like Yale. Cash's jaw drops. He can't believe what he's hearing. He's dead set on the idea that Gale could never pull it off. Melissa has secrets of her own, and the info she's holding could change everything. She confirms that Gale blasted a stall. He hawked his grotesque, cursed loot like it was worth its weight in nightmares. In the end, the guards swept in and seized everything they could get their hands on. Cashmot's Gale flawed merch, that's definitely not as it seems. But somehow, Gil still pulled in serious cash. And yeah, he even went out and bought himself brand new clothes. A wanted poster snaps against the wall, glaring down like it's hunting for someone. The army is tearing the place apart, but they still can't find him anywhere. He plowed his hard-earned money into a brand new beginning. Cash drunkenly stumbles in, demanding clarification. Norris braces himself to lay out his theory. He obsesses over every single story. Gale had to bolt from the capital. The whole party goes deadly silent because they can't believe what just happened. They picture Gale cruising through life like it's all effortless. He always had the creepiest junk hidden for sale, like something that didn't belong in the light. She caught wind of his name at the guild. The guildmaster reluctantly broke his silence and finally spoke. He watched, certain, as Gale vanished for good. Luke swears he's found a way to sell somewhere else. Cash can't shake the fear that if he opens a shop, everything could fall apart. Cash chugs the rest of his drink and slams the cup down. He slams the table and demands another round of booze, roaring for more. He snaps at them to hurry up, like every second matters. Other patrons rise up and start jeering with them. They're onto it. The princess is about to pay. Their eyes bulge with pure instant shock. The waitress hefts 2 massive barrels like they weigh nothing and keeps right on moving. She slams those things onto the table like a thunderclap. The cash is drenched, sputtering like it's about to die. Rage flares as he snaps at the waitress, berating her without mercy. They stare in disbelief because her strength is absolutely unreal. She accidentally catches them talking about Gale, Lisette slams the details into the files and locks it down. Her subordinates rush up and greet her with bright smiles. She rips off her maid headdress like it's nothing. She rages about how miserable her undercover job really is. Her superior demanded she confirm it. Their nasty attitude lines up perfectly with the intel. The princess didn't just ask, they hired them. They're hot on Gale's trail for her. Gale forged the infamous artifact with her own hands. Lisette's still completely baffled by everything happening around her. No one has any idea where he's gone. His trail's gone cold completely. All they're holding on to are meaningless scraps that don't matter at all. They're convinced it's a slick disguise meant to fool everyone. The wolf pack chugs heartily, like there's no tomorrow. Every word they trade in those talks turns into gold, pure intel. They'll hand the reins to the party and follow wherever it goes. She swears she'll hunt down Gale Hamilton and bring him in. Inside the Blacksmith Guild's workshop, a lone figure strides down the hallway like it owns the place. A determined hand grips the tools and hammers a masterpiece into existence. Mora looms in the doorway, watching like she's waiting for the whole world to move. Gale is locked in at his workbench, cranking away like his life depends on it. He finally decides to thank her the way she truly deserves. He leans in and thanks her for the mind quest. Mora freezes, stunned by what just happened. Her presence steadied everything inside me. Mora suddenly gets totally flustered. She flaunts her sick high rig like it's her crown. He's telling everyone his dream is finally coming true, and it's hitting like a victory punch. His blunt honesty throws her off again, completely. She's completely stuck. No words at all will come out. She nods and promises she'll keep backing him no matter what. She snaps at him for sneezing all over her. He can't stop wondering if people are whispering about him. Sharon bursts in, caked in dust from head to toe. He shoots her a grateful smile and thanks her for the workshop. He leaned in and demanded her honest opinion. He whips out his brand new device, and it's totally uncool. Sharna can't wait, she blurts out. So how does it work? He jabs a finger at the activation knob. A nozzle shoots out from the device. Energy snaps and crackles right from the very first second. It blasts out a petrification curse that freezes everything in its tracks. She snaps, furious, and dares him to petrify her. He starts grilling everyone, asking why anyone would even want that item. Sharon watched this supply and demand explains everything. The town's running out of building materials, and that's a disaster waiting to happen. Stone here is pure gold. It's insanely valuable. She lit up with a brilliant idea. She kicks off her explanation, spilling her bold idea like it's burning a hole in her chest. So how on earth was he supposed to build anything in the middle of a scorching desert? He lays out a bunch of brutally tough ways to do it. Sharona whips out a brilliant idea, pack the sand tight and turn it into sturdy bricks. Gale flat out says hauling those materials is impossible. She realizes water is running out fast. Then boom, an absolutely brilliant idea hits him like lightning. Gale's invention could turn sand into stone in an instant. Gale and Mora are left completely speechless, staring in total disbelief. He clocks the building potential in front of him and knows he can turn it into something huge. Sharna yanks her goggles up and leans in, locking eyes with him as she speaks. She leans in and tells him, right to his face, that his skills are incredible. Gale blurts the words again, stunned at herself. He's utterly swept up by pure, unstoppable joy. Farm Edge is drowning in a chronic stone shortage. She slams the truth down. His invention fixes everything. She swears she'll hand out a huge reward the moment it works. She lavishes him with praise, calling his skills and talent straight up unreal. But there's a huge problem waiting right around the corner. It's a total, absolute style-free disaster. Honestly, she leans in and points at him as she speaks. She can't help but admit it, his cursive tools are seriously impressive. Gale's cheeks burn as praise hits her, and she totally loses her cool. She orders yet another item from him. She leaned in and demanded to know the details on the smaller materials. Gale flat out tells them it's impossible to process. His petrification organ didn't even finish forming. She's crushed like the venom machine, just let her down. Gale challenges the whole idea of poison like, what's even the point? She hits him with a reminder, this isn't just any place. It's an agricultural city. Pests and vermin are wreaking havoc and taking over everything. She leans in and asks if he truly understands what poison is worth. He shoots you a grin and swears he's got this, he can make it. He used to forge deadly poison talismans, like each one was built to ruin lives. He starts rattling off the undead parts he needs. He has to gather those materials himself. A wild new idea suddenly ignites in Sharon's mind. Her smile blooms into pure manic excitement. She learns what he can do, and pure excitement lights her up. She's going to have Gimli haul in all the materials. Gale can't contain her excitement. Her generous offer has her absolutely thrilled. He slams a decade oil holder onto the table. It reeks so brutally that you can practically taste the stench in the air. Mora can't stop thinking who on earth would want something like this. She swallows the question and decides to leave it alone. No more answers, no more asking. Shirena snaps at him to lock in on their requests. Gale's cheeks flare as joy rushes in. Having a real purpose makes her feel alive. He bolts toward his workshop, all fired up and ready to go. She hovers on the edge of a breakthrough, ready to put that brand new device to the test. Mora swings into action and offers to open the door for her. Sharon grins and playfully fires off a question. So why are you here? She and Gale have been tearing through quests like they're racing against fate. She thinks about Gale and her smile blooms, soft and warm. Sharon studies her with a knowing, razor-sharp look. She's thrilled they finally nailed the perfect spot. The Wolfpack's back fully re-equipped, standing tall and radiating pure pride. Their carriage rattles forward, shaking the ground as it heads straight for the city. They're cracking up over the princess's money like it's a gold mine. Bose gripped his brand new mithril sword, clutching it like a promise. Melissa and Norris hit the scene, flexing their brand new gear like it's showtime. Luke brags that his magical beast armor makes him untouchable. Cash slams the truth. Gale's curse is pointless, and it won't matter. They feel like nothing in the world can stop them anymore. The assassins slump in their seats, riding in a grim, suffocating silence. Cash can't believe it. Why is nobody jumping at the chance to join? They're so high up the ladder that most people can't even reach them. She's convinced money can bulldoze every problem out of the way. They corner the gloomy girl and demand she spill her role. Lisette lets out an awkward, painful laugh that hurts to hear. Her team throws item-based support into the fight. Cash drops the truth. Turns out they're nothing but porters. He snaps at her to thank him for the ride. Her crew lays low, plotting their revenge like it's already written. Cash barks at her to grab the luggage and move. Every single bite they eat is charged to the princess's tab. Norris leans in and reminds him this escort quest is the next stop. A drunken guy slurs in his face, barking, "Shut up!" He snaps that their faces ruin the fine wine. The assassins rage about what they're stuck in. A burst of magic rips across the sky in a blazing flash. A blinding flare hangs over the forest like a warning flare in the dark. Lizette's smile drops and deadly seriousness slams into her face. Her team's on watch, and the moment their senses flare, everyone snaps into action. The caravan guards snap into battle mode, ready to fight at any second. They're calling in mercenaries to intercept on the double. Adventurers are ordered to guard the carriages with their lives. A shadowy figure lurks in the forest, watching from the dark like it's waiting to strike. The whole forest erupts with wild motion. Nightmarish monsters band together and unleash a full-on terror attack. The captain leans in and rallies his boosted team of escorts, pushing them forward like it's their last stand. The monsters barrel straight into the caravan guards, smashing through their defenses. A carriage gets smashed to splinters like it never stood a chance. A guard bursts in, reporting he just spotted the monster's boss lurking nearby. The massive behemoth finally steps out of the shadows and the full scale of its power slams into view. A guard's knees buckle as he spots the S-rank monster and pure panic hits. Her whole team finally snaps and admits they can't take on the monsters, winning this fight. Honestly, it feels almost impossible. Trying to face them head-on just isn't possible. Inside the pack, powerful beer ink monsters are packed in like loaded weapons ready to hit. Her subordinates urge her to flee right now. The Wolfpack is still blissfully clueless. Cash is the only thing standing between them and total survival. No money, no chance. Lisette can only slam out a furious sigh. Lisette snaps out an order her unit moves to intercept. She demands to know why they're forced to wait. Her boss leans in and drops the bomb. An S-rank party is on the table. Lisette erupts at the party, calling it absolutely stupid. She spots who the guest of honor really is. The Wolfpack is downing drinks like it's a war zone celebration. Her superior is sure they can take on anyone. Lisette smirks and goads them straight into battle. A bone-shaking scream tears through the air as the behemoth launches its brutal attack. The Wolfpack can't stop staring at the sky, utterly baffled by what's going down. Cash snaps about the non-stop screaming blasting from outside. Lisette gets pinned down and restrained by her own comrades. Then you suddenly realize the carriage has stopped dead. Cash yelled at the coachman, grabbing his attention in an instant. The behemoth barrels in and roars through the carriage. Norris and Luke shriek at the top of their lungs, pure terror exploding out of them. Lisette finally figures out what sparked the chaos. The behemoth towers over the battlefield, crushing every last local orc in its sight. He finally recognizes the behemoth's true dominant power. The beast radiates raw violence, towering over everything like it's about to crush the world. The monster towers over a terrified stash, and fear squeezes every ounce of courage out of it. Lizette's unit gets torn apart into the wind, everyone's suddenly scattered. Cash freezes in place, eyes wide, and disbelief hits like a punch. The behemoth's massive legs slam down like thunder. The whole wolf pack gets slammed out of the way in one brutal hit. Lisette snaps her tongue in pure annoyance. Her assassin's blade landed on the beast. She slams her demand on the table. She wants the S-rank party act. The giant behemoth rumbles with a terrifying growl, like it's threatening to tear them apart. A thunderous roar rips through the battlefield, shaking everything to its core. Lisette feels the air tear open under her skin. Every single person is paralyzed by pure, shaking terror. The wolf pack freezes in stunned silence, like the world just stopped. Lisette fires off a reminder this is the mission and nothing else matters. Cash and Norris lock back in, staring down the chaos with fresh resolve. Melissa steels herself as the fight draws near. Luke throws himself into battle mode. They stare the monster down and realize just how gigantic it really is. They brag that the beast can't hold a candle against them. The wolf pack hits the stage, and the whole crowd erupts in cheers. They sweep into the crowd, and every eye lights up with pure adoration. Her whole team clocked it, morale was surging, and nobody could ignore it. The crowd is buzzing, waiting for the moment they all strike together. Lizette's convinced this is straight-up S-rank power. The behemoth lunges forward and wipes them out in one brutal sweep. Her teammates lock up in stunned silence, like their brains just short-circuited. They stared down at the wreckage, stunned by what was left behind. Cash lies battered on the ground, fully defeated. She lets out a blood-curdling shriek, demanding to know how they're pulling off that S-rank power. The behemoth looms over her whole team, towering like a living nightmare. Lesser monsters swarm the fleeing caravan, snapping at its heels as it races for safety. Lisette snaps into action and rallies every last one of her remaining subordinates. The wolf pack threw all caution to the wind and bolted from their mission with zero shame. A flashback of Prince Burial's smile bright enough to hit like lightning. Lisette snorts at the whole ridiculous mess. She proudly unveils her crew's real identity for everyone to see. She snaps orders to her assassins and launches the hit. They've got to take the fight while staying hidden the whole time. A grotesque monster rockets forward, slamming into an assassin like a living nightmare. The assassin tears through the beast without breaking a sweat. Lisette is going to take on that behemoth solo just to pull its attention off everyone else. Her boss's demand turns out to be pure good fortune. She bolts straight into the beast's face, ready to take it on. She lunges straight at the growling behemoth, ready to bring it down. She stalks the beast through the shadows, hunting it in the dark. Her step hits the wood with a stealthy hush. She lunges forward, zeroing in on a blind spot like she can see the opening before it even appears. The behemoth, he snaps it open. It howls like a monster and sweeps her clean off her feet. She drops in, stunned, and immediately picks up what's going on. No ambush is going to touch it. She throws the plan out the window and goes straight for the kill. She lunges in and drives a poison dagger straight into the fight. She's praying for the one fatal strike that ends everything. The behemoth snaps her kick aside with brutal force, deflecting the dagger in midair. She catches a split-second opening and pounces. She whips in another dagger strike, landing it clean like a death sentence. Shames lunged in and tried to slash its throat. Her blade gets snapped off course by its hide. She clocks it instantly. The blow got deflected at the last second. The behemoth hurls her backward with a brutal burst of force. She eyes the blade and thinks, maybe I should cut into its flesh. She plunged the blade into its weak eye and landed the strike clean. She taunts the poison like it can't touch her. The behemoth rumbles with a deep, warning growl. She can't believe it. Somehow it's still moving. The battered beast snarls through the pain and refuses to stop fighting. She spots a weird poison mist creeping through the air. She realizes her body can shrug off poison like it doesn't even stand a chance. She pulls out her trump card and makes it count. She can't forget the prince's deadly gift. One wrong move and everything could go up in flames. He warned her, "If you keep going like this, you might wake up as a demon."